full-service digital marketing division called Salem Surround? If you're a business decision maker, listen up. AM 560 listeners are everywhere your potential audience is. So are our incredible targeting capabilities. We localize digital marketing and put it within reach of every business, small and large, in Chicagoland and beyond. Salem Surround offers AI-powered marketing solutions that reach your ideal audience. Whether or not you tap into the proven live, local, and emotional connection that AM 560 radio brings, Salem Surround offers a total marketing solution to our partners. All-in-one digital solutions that provide targeted local digital and social media ads, Google AdWords management, website services, video strategy, search optimization, and even a management dashboard to offer you total campaign updates and transparency. Your Salem Surround representative is located right here in Chicago. Experience the Salem Surround digital revolution today. Call 847-472-8951. That's 847-472-8951.
Experience a luxurious summer when you visit Trump International Hotel and Towers, Chicago, a Forbes Travel Guide 5-star hotel. Take in stunning views of the Chicago skyline from the heart of the city, steps away from the iconic Magnificent Mile and the revitalized Riverwalk. Treat yourself to exquisite dining at Terra 16 Restaurant and Rebar Lounge, overlooking the Chicago River and Lake Michigan. Catch the Navy Pier fireworks display from Terra 16's patio on Wednesdays and Saturdays all summer long. Relax in immaculately designed suites that offer the utmost level of comfort. Refresh in the state-of-the-art spa featuring a 75-foot swimming pool, steam and sauna rooms, relaxation lounge, and more. The Trump Hotel Chicago offers sophistication and elegance to downtown Chicago and is a convenient travel destination for your summer getaway. Simply visit Trump Chicago online to make your reservations today and search offers to find the never settle summer stay. Book today.
Perhaps you're a collector, or perhaps all of a sudden you have a collection. Maybe it's an inheritance. How do you know what it's worth? This is Sean Thompson for Donley Auction. The market for antiques and collectibles is changing all the time. What is your collection worth right now? Well, I've got an easy way to find out. It's simple. You contact Donley Auctions. With their worldwide audience of live and in-person auctions, they have a good idea of how to tell you exactly what it's worth at exactly right now. They're ready to put top dollar in your pocket. The bigger the collection, the better. Go to DonleyAuctions.com and get the info on all things that they buy and sell to have an idea of exactly what Donley does and how much they need your collection. They have so many buyers, it's a great time to sell. Just simply make a phone call. Donley has traveled all over the country to pick up collections. Just call and talk to the people at Donley Auctions at 815-923-7000. Donley Auctions is your trusted partner in turning your collections into cash. DonleyAuctions.com.
Is cremation an option you're considering for you or your loved one? At Catholic Cemeteries, we offer sacred, permanent places of rest where loved ones can be remembered, prayed for, and visited for generations. Too often, cremated remains are brought home, only to end up in closets, basements, or forgotten on shelves. Memorialization is forever. Honor their life. Preserve your legacy. Visit us today at CatholicCemeteryChicago.org to schedule a free consultation or call 708-236-5490.
Salem News Channel is America's fastest growing conservative TV network.
It's an absolute crazy day.
Home to the largest lineup of free speech champions anywhere. Delivering in-depth insight and unapologetic opinion on today's biggest news stories.
Americans aren't going to put up with this anymore.
SNC brings you the news that matters, told with integrity and clarity. Watch Salem News Channel free 24/7 on your television. Stream now on Pluto TV.
Ross Shaw talks about building income in retirement.
You know, you can actually structure it in a way to have that $4,000 a month coming in the door every single month. So you don't have to look at the stock ticker and say, oh, the stock market's up today, stock market's down. You still got that $4,000 a month, and having that opportunity to take the vacations and do all the fun things in retirement that you always dreamed to do.
Unleash Your Wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
Wealth Health Radio. The biggest fears that people have is, do I have enough money to retire?
Retirement doesn't have to be complicated.
To make sure that you're going through retirement with confidence.
Learn principles of income planning.
There's a lot of different facets that you need to take into consideration when you're retiring.
Tune into Wealth Health Radio with Joe Murphy, noon to 1 p.m. Sundays on AM 560, The Answer.
Hey, Hey, heard you're getting ready to move.
We just listed our house on the market.
Just make sure you have the right attorney.
Doesn't the real estate agent take care of all that?
They stay involved, but you want to make sure you have a great lawyer that's negotiating the terms, helping resolve inspection items, clearing up title issues, preparing the deed and other documents, and attending the closing.
The attorneys at Nauman & Associates in Elk Grove Village have decades of experience handling real estate transactions every day all over Chicagoland. NALawGroup.com.
Jenny McGuire is the fresh, bold, unapologetic voice of common sense, constitutional values, and conservative principles. With her sharp wit, she'll tackle the issues that matter most: faith, family, and freedom. Join her and featured guests each week on the Unsafe Space radio show, heard Saturday evening at 7 right here on AM 560 The Answer. And follow Jenny on Facebook at The Unsafe Space with Jenny McGuire.
Hey AM 560 listeners, Jeff checking in again from JeffBuysYourHouse.com. What I learned serving our great nation in the military is that every mission is unique and success starts with listening. For nearly 20 years, our veteran-led house buying team has taken the time to understand what matters most to each homeowner we serve. Every home has a story, and every seller has different needs. Whether you want a quick closing or need extra time to find your next place, we customize our approach around what works best for you. That's how we've earned hundreds of 5-star Google reviews and an A+ rating with the BBB, by putting relationships first. No repairs needed, no cleanout required, and you pick the closing date that works best for your schedule. At JeffBuysYourHouse.com, we're here to help you through the entire transition, not just the transaction. Are you ready to work with a local team that takes the time to understand your home selling needs? Sell your house to the trusted source by calling us today at 630-895-9530. That's 630-895-9530 or JeffBuysYourHouse.com.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be partly sunny with the high of 84. Tonight, expect clear skies and humid conditions with a low of 68. Tomorrow will bring a mix of clouds and sun with a chance of a thunderstorm in some areas during the afternoon. The high temperature will reach 86. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and I love when people show you who they are. I love it when the neo-Marxists do my work for me. I don't have to labor in making a case as to what they represent, what they want to do, how they would go about doing it, when they can just lay it out for me. And so I appreciate Daniel Goulden, who is a member of the steering committee of the New York City Democrat Socialists of America. He was in attendance at the 2025 Socialism Conference. Were you? If you weren't, guess where it was held? Yeah, Chicago, of course. 2025 Socialism Conference held right here in Chicago. We're still getting the big shows. Lollapalooza, the 2025 Socialism Conference. And what Daniel Goulden had to say about putative incoming New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani might surprise some. Shouldn't. But the fact that it might is why I appreciate he said what he had to say about the close relationship between Mamdani and the DSA, as they call him. And now you have to picture this, too, when he's offering chapter and verse. He is sitting in between this little Politburo that they had set up at the 2025 Socialism Conference right here in the Windy City, sitting in between two old, tattooed chicks who definitely had to get the extender belts on the plane trip into Chicago for the 2025 Socialism Conference. And they're all wearing masks. I mean, It's funny for somebody caricaturing themselves to be complaining about how they're caricatured by conservatives. But that's how Goulden started out his comments, ridiculing conservatives, Fox News, for how they misrepresent the positions of the Democrat Socialists of America and their comrade in arms, Zoran Mamdani, and so many other comrades in arms of theirs that are in mayor's offices and governor's mansions around the country. So he starts off by being facetious about how they're represented right before he embraces exactly what he was ridiculing. They say we believe these things. Isn't that funny? And then he goes on to detail how, in fact, they believe those things.
Zoran is literally attempting to do what conservatives say, we want to do, which is provide gender-affirming care to anyone who wants it for free. And we're going to ship people, we're going to fly people in and pay for their hotel rooms. And we're going to do all of the Fox News stuff. We're getting ideas from Fox News. I want to we'll do that. Thank you. But most importantly is we collaborated with the Zoran Mamdani campaign on his trans rights platform. And what we explicitly wanted to do was use the power of New York City to provide free gender-affirming care, and I say free in case insurance companies decide to boot us off, free gender-affirming care, not just to people in New York City, but across the country. When Zoran first kind of approached DSA leadership about running, his pitch was, he said, I'm going to get socialists to vote for me and I'm going to get Muslims to vote for me. With Zoran, we're in basically the best possible position to seize state power that we can be in because we're like this, right? DSA has regular meetings with him, let alone his team. His policy director is my friend. I've been working with his campaign manager for well over a year. I have friends who are in his staff. Trans rights, I always would say, we are the tip of the spear. I've looked at Zoran's policies and I'm like, yep, these were floating around group chats and message boards for 5 years before they ended up in here. Zoran himself, who's about to become the mayor of the largest city in the United States, is facing the same attacks that undocumented immigrants just trying to get a job at Home Depot are facing right now. There's no reason at all that we can't use telehealth and mailing prescriptions to people across the country to undermine state.
Yeah, and you get where this goes. But the top line, of course, was that we are like this, fingers crossed. We are tight. Briefings for years. And what he's done is he's taken all the bad ideas bouncing around leftist chat rooms, and he's cobbled them together in a platform for actually governing New York City. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get Muslims. And I'm going to get socialists, and that should be plenty in New York City. Yeah, maybe. And so then you see, of course, now you have the stories of the elites, the wealthy in New York that are horrified by the prospect of a mayor Zordani. Now they're scrambling to set up a super PAC to try to derail Mamdani. A little late. As I said, after Mamdani's surprise to some victory in the primary, people like billionaire investor Bill Ackman, who are like, oh, now we got to do something. Candidate recruitment, development, and understanding of what's happening around you, so much better before the ballots get cast. So much more effective to be ahead of the storm rather than trying to make your way out of it once it's arrived. Don't you think? But anyway, going back to connecting the dots. So there's DSA, the policy arm of the Mamdani team. And then you have, here's another dot connected. This is who they are. Full embrace. Senator Sacagawea, who endorsed Mamdani, saying this.
When someone stands up and says, I will lead this city by making it more affordable, and here are my plans. Real plans to deliver on childcare, plans to deliver on housing, plans to deliver. We're going to experiment. We're going to try things on groceries. That is the Democratic message.
It is the Democratic message, from each according to their means to each according to their needs. It's not a new message. It's just been polished up and represented by Zoran Mamdani, Brandon Johnson here, mean, this is where their party is, what that DSA goon was outlining. That's their party. It's not a one-off. It's not part of the party. It's not, but then there's the the ground that Rahm Emanuel is trying to stake out. Let's go ahead and try to stake it out. That's not where the party is. And if you look at elected officials from that party all over the country, you'll see different presentations of the same bad ideas, which is why for years I've been saying, take Jared Polis out of Colorado and put him here and put Pritzker in Colorado. Same results. Brandon Johnson in Baltimore and Brandon Scott in Chicago. Same results. Different names and faces and personalities and communication skill levels. Same policies, same results. And New York City should be more or less used to it because Eric Adams wasn't quite all the way down that road, but he certainly was more or less embracing the general temperature of the base of that party to which he affiliated before he became an independent by necessity in this race. And he's gone. And so is, old fork-tongued war horses like Handsy Andy Cuomo. He's gone too. The future of that party, to the extent it's going to have a future, is Mamdani. And the future of this country, to the extent we're going to have a future, is in stopping people like Mamdani, but not with Adams and Cuomo, common sense, conservative counter-revolutionaries.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
The following advertisement includes a celebrity impersonation.
The summer heat in Chicagoland is no joke. And if your old air conditioner is making funny noises, you may already know it's time for a new unit.
Look, your air conditioner, it's a disaster. People are telling me it's the worst ever.
Don't sweat it, literally. When it comes to cooling your home, Air Right Heating and Cooling does it the best.
And they love our country. Beautiful people.
Rebates are still available, financing is flexible, and at Air Right installations are smooth and professional with no surprises.
It's beautiful. Some people say it's the coolest air anyone's ever felt. I don't know. That's just what they're saying. It's doing an incredible job. Really tremendous.
Plus, tell them AM 560 sent you and Air Right will give you $56 off any service. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling. Doing it right since 1959.
AM 560. The Answer.
Dan Proft here, coming up at 5:38. More on the new Marxists demonstrating who they are, telling us in no uncertain terms who they are. It's very, very helpful. The vaunted Rachel Maddow. While you've been going on with your daily lives, falling in and out of love, something else has happened to America, and she wants you to know about it. You'll hear about it at 5:38. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It's 67 degrees in Chicago on AM 560. The Answer. I'm Bob Stevenson, 560 The Answer Newsroom. A Chicago man already on GPS monitoring has been charged with shooting two women in North Lawndale. Prosecutors say 31-year-old Nicholas Young was tracked to and from the scene. Both women survived. Young has 8 prior felonies. A judge has denied bond, saying monitoring was ineffective in preventing this violent act. A teenager is in critical condition after being shot during a robbery on a CTA Red Line train Saturday night. Chicago police say the 18-year-old was approached by a man demanding his belongings before being shot in the chest and side. It happened around 10 p.m. on the 95th Street station. Chicago police and animal control removed 26 dogs from a Southside home Friday afternoon after a report of animal cruelty. Officers found the dogs in the backyard and garage of a home on West 65th Place. At least one was injured. The investigation is ongoing. This news is a service of Payday. Hardworking people need a hardworking candy bar. Packed with peanuts and filled with golden caramel, Payday is definitely working hard for you. So grab one now to power you through the day. Payday Peanut Caramel Bar. Get to it. Check the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Join John Anthony, host of Black and Right, for a cruise on Lake Michigan, Saturday, September 6th. Come aboard the luxury yacht Free Spirit for a fun afternoon with fellow AM 560 listeners. Enjoy great food and beverages and be a part of the live broadcast of Black and Right with John Anthony. Tickets are on sale now at 560theanswer.com/cruise. That's 560theanswer.com/cruise.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank that cares about your business and is invested in your success. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Chris Johnson, CEO of Classic Cinemas and proud customer of Signature Bank. We are a local family-owned business that is known for free refills on all sizes of popcorn, soft drinks, and ices. With over 9,000 heated recliners in 16 locations, we marry the traditions of the past with today's state-of-the-art technology. Throw in a 30-minute guarantee and an after-movie mint, and you have the perfect night out. As we strive to make every guest our priority, Signature Bank does the same with their customers. The team at Signature Bank is interested in taking my company forward. They have all the resources and solutions of the big banks, but they customize their offerings to meet my business needs. The customer always comes first with Signature Bank.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Let Signature Bank turn your business vision into reality. Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Success is picking up extra shifts for your family. Now you want to be the boss. Success is getting your foot in the door. Now you want to take the next step. Success looks different to everyone, and University of Maryland Global Campus can help you reach your goals. And there's never been a better time to get started on your future. Apply now and save with no application fee. Classes start August 13th. As an accredited state university, UMGC has been transforming lives for over 75 years. With more than 135 undergraduate and graduate degrees and certificates, online and hybrid courses, personalized support, financial resources, and lifetime career services, achieving your dreams is more possible than ever before. Choose the program that's right for your career goals and get started on your next success. Get your application fee waived now. Classes start August 13th. Learn more at umgc.edu. Certified to operate in Virginia by Chev.
Eggland's Best, the only eggs with more fresh and delicious taste, plus superior nutrition. Eggland's Best, better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be partly sunny with a high of 84. Tonight, expect clear skies and humid conditions with a low of 68. Tomorrow will bring a mix of clouds and sun with a chance of a thunderstorm in some areas during the afternoon. The high temperature will reach 86. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and as I mentioned before the news, Rachel Maddow doing a little stop, look, and listen for us. The conscience of America. So she would like you to believe. Rachel Maddow, you know, I understand that you're carrying on with your ignominious existences, daily lives, falling in and out of love, But something is afoot. Something has befallen America while you have been distracted with the vagaries of your daily lives. She really brings it home here.
And, listen, you can narrow or widen the aperture as much as you want. You can look at the very big picture or the small local picture anywhere in the country. And we try to do as much of both of those things as we can every week here on this show. But whether you're looking at small-scale local stories or the biggest picture stories about what's happening in our country, the story is the same, and it is now an undeniable thing. We have crossed a line. We are in a place we did not want to be, but we are there. The thing we were all warning about for the last few years is not coming, it is here. We are in it. This is what it likes, it turns out. This is what it's like, right? It's August, it's a Monday, every day the sun rises and the sun sets, and there are, sports and movies, and there are new hit songs, there are scandals here and there are crimes. There's everybody's personal quotient of family drama and health worries and money worries and falling in and out of love and in and out of faith. Life has not stopped, and none of our personal lives have stopped. But also, at the same time, life in the United States is profoundly changing, is profoundly different than it was even 6 months ago. Because we do now live in a country that has an authoritarian leader in charge. We have a consolidating dictatorship in our country. And it sounds melodramatic to say it, I know. But just go with that for a minute, right? Think in melodramatic terms. Think in cinematic terms. Imagine the cartoon-level caricature of what you think a dictatorship looks like. It's secret police, right? A massive, anonymous, unbadged, literally masked, totally unaccountable internal police force that apparently has infinite funding, but no identifiable leadership. And they act in ways designed to instill maximum fear and use maximum force. When you imagine an authoritarian country, right, what you imagine is masked secret police breaking people's car windows and snatching people off the streets and out of church parking lots and courtroom hallways and taking them away with no charges, no notice, no paperwork, no explanation, not letting them see lawyers, and then moving them secretly to what are effectively black site prisons, where they won't tell you who's there and where no one's allowed in to see what's going on. Right? And that kind of a cartoon caricature of an authoritarian country, the one you might have imagined in melodramatic and cinematic terms ever before we got here, you would expect, right, that you'd have a scapegoated minority group blamed for all things. In our case, immigrants. Right? And the new extraordinary powers and shows of force by the secret police, among other things, all these extraordinary powers and shows of force will be framed as necessary to stop this terrible internal enemy. Right? Frame everything as immigration enforcement. Because for immigration enforcement, not only is all force justified, but maximum force is preferred. And they're trying to make it into a national entertainment to threaten to feed immigrants to alligators in South Florida.
Right. Have you noticed? I know you were distracted by falling in and out of faith and your daily lives, but have you noticed the authoritarian head of state that has befallen this country? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line and text line. It's just admittedly, she offers just a melodramatic summation with, the characteristic Rachel Maddow prose. Oh, it was Robert Frostian listening to her describe, the American condition and what the median American family does on a daily basis. But let me tell you something else. Let me tell you about the boogeyman in your closet. I know this is nothing new. It's just the latest rhetorical flourish, but this is what they have. When they're being honest, they like an Elizabeth Warren, which is not her natural state. They embrace self-professed socialists like Zoran Mamdani. When they're being dishonest and trying to generate some electoral viability, they're offering the dystopian scenarios of a Rachel Maddow, of this dark cloud that has covered America, so different than it was 6 months ago. Secret police under the control of an authoritarian head of state who have unchecked power and unlimited resources to prey on people in a hallway or a church or a grocery store parking lot. Wouldn't be great if that was what was happening, but of course it's not. They're not unbadged. They're not operating in secret. I mean, Tom Homan couldn't do any more interviews with media outlets, including those that are hostile, on a weekend or weekly basis. It couldn't be more direct about what they're doing and presenting the evidence. I mean, you also have, the daily reporting that we go through, the stories that are told that are real stories and add up to real data that has real persuasive, a real high persuasive quotient for people who are interested in trying to understand what is happening. For example, Bill Maloogian, Fox. DHS confirms that the suspect arrested for killing a mom and her daughter in a head-on crash in the sanctuary state of New Jersey is a Mexican illegal alien who had been arrested for two DUIs in New Jersey in April and March and had a domestic violence arrest in New Jersey in 2023. He's now been charged with 2 counts of vehicular homicide. And he entered the U.S. illegally as a gotaway at an unknown time and location. So, again, that's a real story. There's a mom and a young child, an 11-year-old, who are dead because of the indifference of the previous administration and the current party to which Rachel Maddow affiliates to public safety. They're too busy treating this guy, for example, as one of their mascots for the demagogic purposes that Rachel Maddow illustrated in characterizing those who would remove people like this guy now in custody on 2 counts of vehicular homicide are secret police, they're jackbooted thugs, they're disappearing people to black sites, and so on and so forth. That's what they have. That's the value proposition of that party. We despise everything that harkens back to a sense of American identity. Anything that would inspire patriotic goodwill. Anything that would even engender fellowship among Americans of different stripes and perspectives. We hate those things. We are so filled with bile that we lose our minds over a good-looking young woman doing a jeans commercial. That has nefarious, cinematic, melodramatic, to borrow from Miss Maddow, implications. Okay, if that's what you're going to sell. Interestingly, the counter-revolution that's happening, and this is the dynamic. It marches on. The Marxist revolutionaries that were ascendant over the last 4 years, and frankly, with fits and starts the last 50 to 100 years, versus the common sense counter-revolutionaries that have entered the fray with Trump at the lead. There's no other way to accurately describe it. And the converts you see, like Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir, who in his Q2 letter to shareholders, the United States, the most consequential country in the West, it is the culture that enables companies like ours to come into existence and excel. It must be protected. The United States is not and should not be permitted to become a soft compromise and amalgam of global values and tastes. Well, that's actually even a generous characterization of what Rachel Maddow and her ilk are offering. I mean, and if you don't think they despise the United States, they see the United States as sort of a means to their own political and geopolitical ends. They're here and they're happy about it, but they're not happy about how it's structured. America is to be brought to heel to the developing world where Delia Ramirez came from, for example. Delia Ramirez, she's a duly elected congresswoman from Chicago. She was at this Pan American Summit in Mexico City over the weekend, which also featured the Rashida Tlaibs and the Ilhan Omars. And she said this during her remarks.
Quiero terminar diciendo unas palabras en español porque yo soy guatemalteca con mucho orgullo, primero que soy americana.
Let me translate that for you. I am a proud Guatemalan before I am an American. I am a proud Guatemalan before I am an American. That's a member of the Illinois congressional delegation, which I'm sure surprises very few. But as I said, it's very much like Elizabeth Warren giving the full-throated endorsement to Zoran Mandani. Thank you. Laying it out. Like the Democrat Socialists of America at their 2025 conference in, where else? Chicago. Laying it out. This is what we believe. This is what Zoran Mandani believes. We're tight with him. We're going to have access to the mayor of the most populous city in America, one of the most important cities in the world, to drive his policy agenda. Just like the teachers' unions, the CTU here, but the teachers' unions generally, same sort of deal. They tell you straight away, I'm a proud Guatemalan before I'm an American. It's the same thing you see in Mogadishu, soon to be, coming soon, Mogadishu, Minneapolis, with Omar Fatah and the aforementioned Ilhan Omar. They're Somalian first and a proud Somalian first, a proud Guatemalan first, and then they're also an American. But very much like the government unions use the private sector, these identitarian politicians use America as spare parts for what they really want. Public sector unions use other people's stuff, livelihoods, interests, spare parts to be used to make sure their guaranteed seven-figure pension checks continue to arrive in a timely fashion. I'm a proud Guatemalan before I'm an American. Right. The exact opposite of the big idea here. E pluribus unum. Exact opposite. These people have it at 180 degrees wrong. Well, obviously, because they want to take America down a path down the road to serfdom. This is not some sort of difference of opinion of how best to do free minds and free markets in a free society. That's not what this is. And they're telling you straight away in no uncertain terms. Unvarnished. Robert in Bloomingdale, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, I agree with you. These people are professing their allegiance to foreign countries, but there are certain countries we cannot criticize, and if we do, FEMA funds are being.
Hey, sorry, Robert. I don't know if that's on your end or our end, little phone issue, but we're going to find out right now. George in Naperville.
Yes, in cinematic terms, I give that premiere, Siskel and Ebert, 2 thumbs down.
Thumbs down. Thank you, George, so much.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer. Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving MyPillow with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss and your gain. MyPillow is offering the Classic Collection for wholesale prices. Only $19.98 for a standard MyPillow. But it gets even better. For a limited time, they're going to offer the entire Classic Collection at wholesale prices. Get queen-size MyPillows for just $24.98. Upgrade to king size for only $29.98. Get the body pillows for $39.98. And the multi-use MyPillows for only $12.98. So go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY or call 800-489-0201 to take advantage of wholesale pricing and receive $100 in free digital gifts when your order is $75 or more. That's right. Get the standard MyPillow for only $19.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. That number again is 800-489-0201. Promo code LIBERTY.
This is Seth Leibson for Townhall.com. NBC recently reported the U.S. fertility rate has dropped to an all-time low. More women are waiting longer to have children or never taking that step at all. This is another social decline, especially as attached to historically low marriage rates and declining church attendance. The forces of composition in civil society are losing to the forces of decomposition. The magic of social cohesion that energizes institutions like marriage, family, and parenthood has taken hit after hit, with women being taught to emphasize educational and professional success, while boys and men have been taught that at first they were unnecessary as a fish is to a bicycle, and then simply devalued in and of themselves as toxic. Family, faith, and children used to be signs of joy to behold, propelling mutual societal success, not burdens to delay or refuse. It's led to individualism, isolation, and loneliness. In the words of Tom Wolfe, it's time for a great relearning, as much as it is a great reawakening. I'm Seth Leibson.
Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life. AM 560. The Answer.
Just a couple of more anecdotes in response to Rachel Maddow's suggestion that essentially we have an authoritarian regime because we have a secret police organization called ICE. That was basically the thrust of it. And I mean, these stories number in the thousands every day in this country. And frankly, I don't know why we can't do a better job as a party, as media too, of collating these stories to make sure that none are lost and bringing forth anybody who wants to speak on them who are related to the victim of a preventable crime, like that mom and daughter who were killed in a DUI crash in New Jersey by someone who shouldn't be in this country. In Chicago last week, 28-year-old migrant detained Thursday evening from Venezuela found a loaded handgun and an inert grenade in his possession following a disturbance on a CTA bus in South Chicago. Inert grenade. How do you know he's illegal, Dan? Well, I know this. He had an active warrant for failing to appear in court on a misdemeanor shoplifting case. That's been active since March of last year. It's it takes a while to identify who is here legally and who isn't here legally because the power structure in the city and state see no difference between the two groups. And therein lies the problem. And therein lies the identity of the new Marxist Party, as we've been discussing all hour. Coming up at 6:06, boy, they just keep building my case for me. The latest on those flea-bagging Texas House Democrats. It is now 6 a.m., AM 560, WIND, Chicago.
Democrats plan to retaliate. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. In blue states like California, where Governor Gavin Newsom says if Texas Republicans go through with the new congressional redistricting to help give the GOP 5 more House seats in the 2026 election,
and we're not going to roll over. and we're going to fight fire with fire.
Planning his own redistricting to favor Democrats, and they're considering the same thing in New York, where some of the Democratic lawmakers who left Texas went to prevent a redistricting vote. Others went to Illinois. And Texas Governor Greg Abbott tells Fox he wants state police to go there and arrest them and bring them back.
He added that in some cases, a felony charge could apply to some of them.
It would be bribery if any lawmaker took money to perform or to refuse to perform an act in the legislature.
While it's typical to wait to redistrict until after new census data at the turn of each decade, Abbott said there was nothing illegal with drawing new lines now, as he noted 2 seats have Democratic Congress members but voted for President Trump last year.
That's Fox's Jessica Rosenthal. A federal appeals court issued a ruling the president likes. It rejects a challenge to a Texas law that invalidates mail-in ballots without voter ID numbers. A Trump Truth Social post after midnight called it great news, writing the policy should be nationwide. A manhunt for a murder suspect in Montana enters day 5.
As the search continues, officials have closed the surrounding national forest, and residents have been warned about going outside.
The shooting happened Friday in Anaconda.
Michael Brown, an Army veteran, walked into his favorite bar with a loaded rifle and allegedly killed 4 of his acquaintances.
Fox's Ashley Strohmeyer. Israel may be ready to escalate the war in Gaza. The Security Cabinet meets today to consider taking full control of the territory, occupying it with no deal with Hamas. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu posted on social media,
"They say that we're deliberately starving Palestinian children. That's a barefaced lie. Since the beginning of the war, we have let in almost 2 million tons of food."
America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 68 degrees in Chicago at AM 560 The Answer. I'm Bob Stevenson in the 560 The Answer newsroom. At least 12 people were arrested during Lollapalooza 2025 in Grant Park in Chicago. Officials have confirmed that 42 others were taken to hospitals. The 4-day music festival drew crowds of over 170 performers, including Olivia Rodrigo. Chicago police are investigating a deadly hit-and-run on the south side. 31-year-old man was found in the street about 3:20 in the morning on Sunday on South Stewart Avenue. He was taken to the University of Chicago Medical Center where he died. The driver fled. No one so far is in custody. A Chicago man's jailed for allegedly shooting a father in front of the fiancé and kids after a car horn beeped near him. 42-year-old Paul Garcia faces attempted murder charges. The father was shot twice but survived. Prosecutors say nearly the entire confrontation was caught on camera. 3 people are jailed in Chicago following a federal sting targeting Venezuela's Tren de Aragua gang. Officials say the group sold drugs and guns during 2 undercover deals in May and July. Police seized 2C, a meth mix, and loaded pistols. A couple of men and 1 woman are facing serious charges. And Harvey police say 2 weekend shootings are tied to a long-running feud between known groups. 5 people are injured in a party, including a 4-year-old. Concealed carry holder returned fire, killing a suspect. Another man was later found dead in a retaliatory shooting. Police say there's no threat to the public. A Chicago man already on GPS monitoring has been charged with shooting 2 women on North Lawndale. Prosecutors say 31-year-old Nicholas Young was tracked to and from the scene. Both women survived. Young has 8 prior felonies. A judge has denied bond, saying monitoring was ineffective in preventing this violent act. This news is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Have you been getting high quotes for dental implants? With medical PPO insurance, it is possible to save 90% off on average. See if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Making smiles great again. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
The biggest AM 560 event of the year is coming to Gobert's Farm in Pingree Grove on Friday, August 22nd. It's Sean Fest 2025. Join hundreds of fellow AM 560 listeners for the summer's best party. Be a part of the on-location broadcast with Sean Thompson, followed by live music, photo opportunities, food and dessert trucks, and it's all free. Registration is requested at 560theanswer.com/SeanFest. Sponsored in part by Fox Valley Coins and by MyVirago.com.
We all know the importance of good daily habits, whether it's getting your steps in, stretching those limbs, or eating right. Doing it on the regular is key. That's why if you're dealing with everyday aches and pain, it's time to bring Relief Factor into your routine. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Developed by doctors, Relief Factor uses a special formula of 4 natural ingredients. Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain, it helps reduce or even eliminate it. In fact, the longer you take it, the more effective it is. So call 1-800-4-RELIEF and try their 3-week quick start for only $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Simply call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Wherever you're having pain, don't let it keep you from living the life you want. Make Relief Factor part of your daily routine. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF.
At University of Maryland Global Campus, we give our students credit where credit is due. Credit for deciding in the middle of rush hour traffic to go back and get their bachelor's and a promotion. Credit for managing 3 kids, 2 dogs, and a full-time job to pursue an MBA. And credit for serving in the military by day so they can study cybersecurity at night. For over 75 years, we've been helping students receive the credit they deserve. With more than 135 degrees and certificates, students at UMGC can use prior learning or relevant experience to earn up to 90 credits toward a bachelor's, and graduate students can transfer up to 12 credits toward their master's. At UMGC, you'll find everything from online to hybrid courses and lifetime career services to scholarship opportunities, making your education journey flexible, fast, and affordable. Apply now and save with no application fee. Classes start August 13th. Learn more at umgc.edu. Certified to operate in Virginia by Chev.
Taking a look at your drive in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center with traffic, a service of Woodland Windows. Eden's inbound Lake Cook to Montrose, 14 minutes. Also a 14-minute travel time, Eden's outbound Montrose to Lake Cook. On the Kennedy inbound O'Hare to Byrne Interchange, an 18-minute ride. A 32-minute ride on the Kennedy outbound Byrne Interchange to O'Hare. On the Eisenhower inbound Jane Addams to Old Post Office, you're looking at 27 minutes. And just under 30 minutes, Eisenhower outbound Old Post Office to Jane Addams. On the Stevenson inbound, 355 to Lakeshore Drive, you're looking at a 23-minute travel time and a 22-minute ride on the Stevenson outbound Lakeshore Drive to 355. On the Dan Ryan inbound 95th to Byrne Interchange, 13 minutes. A 16-minute travel time on the Dan Ryan outbound Byrne Interchange to 95th. Woodland Windows and Doors in Roselle. For over 52 years, Woodland has been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, featuring styles ranging from modern to traditional. Visit woodlandwindows.com to get started today. I'm KT. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Now here's the latest forecast from QC Kinetics.
Today will be partly sunny with the high of 84. Tonight, expect clear skies and humid conditions with a low of 68. Tomorrow will bring a mix of clouds and sun with a chance of a thunderstorm in some areas during the afternoon. The high temperature will reach 86. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Day 2 of the abdication of the Lone Star State's House Democrat Socialists, who made their way to Illinois, New York, Massachusetts. Yes, all the rogue states. Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, came on with Dana Perino on Fox yesterday to talk about their abdication, the implications, and respond to the arguments they're making. First, on the fight between them, the political fight.
To run to states like New York and Illinois to protest redistricting is kind of like running to Wisconsin to protest cheese. It's just kind of outrageous. Those are New York and Illinois are two hallmark states. They've already done redistricting to eliminate Republicans. But the second thing is far more serious, and that is what these Democrats have done. Just a small fraction of them were needed to break a quorum, and that small fraction is holding hostage legislation in the state of Texas where we will be able to provide assistance and reform for all of the victims of that horrific flooding that we've had in the state of Texas. Our fellow Texans are being let down and not getting the flood relief they need because these Democrats have absconded from the responsibility, and I believe they have forfeited their seats in the state legislature because they're not doing the job they were elected to do.
Well, the Texas House voted yesterday afternoon to track down and arrest the 4 dozen plus lawmakers not present when the chamber gavelled in. The House Speaker in Texas said he would sign civil arrest warrants for each of the legislators, empowering the chamber's sergeant-at-arms and state troopers to arrest them and bring them to the Capitol. But the warrants apply only within state lines. So it's really a symbolic move. And I guess after review, Greg Abbott doesn't think that he can strip them of their offices and appoint replacements. At least now he wasn't prepared to make that case yesterday. We've been here before, right? Tried and true tactics. They remember we mentioned it briefly in the conversation about this yesterday. Those same Texas House Democrats used the same tactic to protest GOP voting restrictions. They fled to D.C. This is back 4 years ago. You remember Jim Crow 2.0? When the same people's hair was on fire over modest, sensible, election integrity-oriented reforms in the state of Georgia. Jim Crow 2.0, right? Major League Baseball canceling the All-Star game, moving it out of Atlanta. The Texas Constitution enables quorum breaking by a minority faction of the legislature and authorizes quorum forcing by the remaining members, according to the Texas Supreme Court. So, you know, this is going to play out over the next couple of weeks. And ultimately, Greg Abbott and Texas Republicans, if they stick to it, will have their way, just as they had their way in 2021. Just as Wisconsin Republicans ultimately got their way when the legislative Democrats there fled to, the Clock Tower Hotel in Rockford to try to prevent the budget repair bill. But Scott Walker and Republicans in control at the time moved that along. Just as Indiana Democrats, prior to that, fled to Champaign-Urbana when Mitch Daniels and Indiana Republicans were moving right-to-work legislation. And ultimately, Mitch Daniels and the Republicans in Indiana held their ground and had their way. So that's how it's going to play out. But nonetheless, the performances are indicative of, future performances in this case. Past performance is indicative of future performance, particularly when you're talking about these leftist politicians. That's number one. But number two, it's indicative of the conversation we've been having all morning to date, which is demonstrating who they are. On the underlying matter, since, of course, in lieu of an argument, they just call the maps racist. Greg Abbott had some details on that I think in a pretty compelling fashion give lie to what those House Democrats platformed by governors like our very own Jelly Belly, like Hochul in New York, Newsom in California. Here are the details on the new map in Texas.
So first, for redistricting purposes, it's not done for racial reasons. However, the racial outcome is this, and that is the district lines will solidify the Barbara Jordan African-American district in the Houston area, and it will add 4 new Hispanic districts. And so there's actually going to be more racial minority districts in the state of Texas. Why now? 2 reasons. One is, since we last did redistricting, there's been a change in law. A court decision affecting Texas came out and said that coalition districts are no longer required, and it's perfectly legal to dismantle coalition districts. The second is gerrymandering can be done, or drawing lines can be done, on the basis of political makeup, as in Republican versus Democrat, and there's nothing illegal about that. And then when you look at the outcome of the most recent presidential election, all these districts that are being added are districts that were won by Trump. Here's the point of that. These voters in these districts won by Trump, they don't have the ability to vote for their candidate of choice now because they're in congressional districts. They're in a Democrat district. as opposed to a district won by Trump. And so we have the authority legally under redistricting law to draw districts that align with the voter preferences of the voters of the state of Texas. And Donald Trump proved in these Hispanic-created districts that Hispanics, as well as other people in those districts, they want to vote Republican.
Yeah, it's sort of turning the argument made by Jasmine Crockett and others on its head, sort of jujitsuing it quite nicely. You want to get into this percentage game and whose sort of political disposition is being served? Well, you can argue on the one hand just by race, which is what she did, and I'll argue by actual political viewpoint in terms of the statewide Latinos voting majority for Trump, a point that even Jasmine Crockett had to concede. And also in terms of how these new proposed districts have been drawn, you're going to be majority Latino districts, and we're willing to take our chances that there'll be majority Republican districts correspondingly. As opposed to her, Texas is only 39% Anglo, and yet you're going to have 60% Anglo representing in terms of the composition of the congressional delegation. Maybe, maybe not, but you want to play that game rather than just say, compact, contiguous, and respect for corporate boundaries, municipal boundaries, and come what may. You want to play the identity game? Well, we can play the identity. You'll do it based on non-behavioral characteristics, and we'll do it based on actual behavior as an expression of their political viewpoints, as an expression of their statement as to their political self-interest. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. The other matter, you heard a snippet of it at the top in the news as well, is Greg Abbott hasn't foreclosed, even though this is largely ceremonial at this point, the House Speaker in Texas animating the Sergeant of Arms to bring those legislators in and use state troopers as necessary, but only within the corporate boundaries of the state of Texas. Well, there's another matter here that Greg Abbott raised, and I don't know the details. He just sort of gave this sort of generic description of what he's heard, but go where the facts lead, because as I know from Letitia James and all of the other automatons on the left, as it pertains to Trump, they insisted on reminding us that no one is above the law, and I agree with them. They don't agree with them, but I agree with them. And so these Texas House Democrats aren't above the law either. Greg Abbott on the possibility that one or more of these legislators committed a felony.
So very simply, it would be bribery if any lawmaker took money to perform or to refuse to perform an act in the legislature. And the reports are these legislators have been both, they sought money and they offered money to skip the vote, to leave the legislature, to take a legislative act. That would be bribery. And so the facts will have to come out. But I think based upon comments made by legislators themselves, they face a possibility of facing bribery charges, which is a second-degree felony in the state of Texas. There's one way to cure that, and that is if they get back to the state of Texas and make quorum today at a hearing that we have at 3 o'clock, they can cure themselves of any quid pro quo that would subject them to potential bribery charges.
Well, that didn't happen, so we'll see. Here's a dream scenario, just a dream scenario, that there was an inducement offer to one or more of the legislators for the purpose of advancing, say, a governor's political ambitions for the presidency. And it was Governor Jelly Belly. And then, unlike maybe the sale of a Senate seat in Illinois, you could get buyer and seller. Wouldn't that be fun? Here's a little preview of what Jelly Belly will sound like. And again, this is my dream scenario. If he's arrested and imprisoned for bribing Texas. This is a dream scenario. I'm not accusing him. I'm saying if this happened, this is a hypothetical that Greg Abbott raised because he's heard things about inducements. If you do this, we'll give you that. That's, a bribe for an official legislative act. Well, if this is what I imagine it will be for Jelly Belly once he is entered into the system.
God, I don't belong here. We have a winner. I want to go home. And it's fat ass by a nose. Where's Fisk? Where's Fisk? Where's Fisk? I don't belong here. I want to go home. I want my mother.
Could happen. Jim in LaGrange. Hey, Jim. Jim in LaGrange, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer. Going once. Jim. No? Oh. Okay, try back, Jim. Jasmine Crockett has weighed in on this. She had this to say about what is going to happen. She's a fighter. Fake eyelashes, Spice. She's a fighter.
And I'm sorry, but instead, we are not only going to punch you back, but we are going to knock you out. So I fully anticipate that we are going to take control of the United States House because that is what the American people want. And that is why Donald Trump and his regime is so afraid.
Well, I think that's why Jasmine Crockett is so involved, is because hers is one of the seats that would come into a much more competitive framework than it currently is, jeopardizing Jasmine Crockett's ongoing representation, in quotes, in the House. And I know there's some excitement about her running for Senate. I think that excitement is mostly on the Republican side. I don't think you'll see a Senator Jasmine Crockett anytime soon either. Kevin in Brookfield, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, Dan, real quick, I just want to tell you, nobody does Jelly Belly like you.
Thank you.
And honestly, the way you keep you never change the tone of your voice. And looking back, I would have loved to have had a teacher like you. You are phenomenal. I learned something new from you every morning. I really do. I mean that. So thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Kevin, very much. I appreciate that. And at least somebody enjoys my dry sense of humor. Thank you. Jim LaGrange, he's back.
So sorry. I was driving around Manhattan, Illinois, and the call dropped. So can Greg Abbott use some powers with his majority and supermajority to disqualify those lawmakers and to put other people in their place? Can he appoint people?
Yeah, thanks for the call, Jim. That issue was raised. He basically said over the weekend, after they fled, that this is dereliction of duty, and he basically suggested it's vacating your seat, and so they should be formally removed from their seats, and he can appoint temporary replacements. I don't know if that is a reach per Texas law, or if it's just not something they want to do at this juncture, just ratcheting up the pressure, but not going from zero to nuclear immediately, as you heard him sort of opining. Start with the civil warrants to compel their attendance, and then see what they do. As of 3 o'clock yesterday, 3 o'clock came and went. Now we'll see what they have to say today. It's sort of, you want to ratchet up one step at a time as you continue to endure noncompliance, I suppose, is the approach that Abbott is taking. And we'll see sort of how much political, I'm sure they're calculating sort of how much political risk is there in going forward. And maybe it just makes more sense to be patient, to continue to excoriate them appropriately for their sheepish, mealy-mouthed conduct, and be the adult in the room, as it were, dealing with these petulant children. Speaking of petulant children, I got to get one more Jasmine Crockett in, because you just heard her talk about not only are they going to be punching back, but they're going to be knocking out. Mama gonna knock you out. And we got a little bit of that Jasmine Crockett at the MoveOn.org event in Phoenix over the weekend. Of course we did. Yeah, she's sometimes the hood vernacular and personality comes out, and sometimes it's the button-down officer of the court. She wears many faces and fake eyelashes on all of them. So here's a Jasmine Crockett on after they knock you out. Now what they going to do? She going to tell you.
It's going to be, we're going to win. But what are we going to need to do then? For me, it's getting aggressive. Now listen, I'm not going to say this is what we're going to do, but I'm telling y'all what my vision would be. Number one, this Supreme Court is corrupt. So again, serving on the Judiciary Committee, there are bills that we have put into place. We need to have some real guardrails around this Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court has paved the way for half the stuff that we see that's going on. Listen, Donald Trump is a piece of shit. Okay, we know that. Yes, he is. But in a functioning democracy, he still would not be able to get away with this. But he's been able to get away with this because the House Republicans are complicit. He's been able to get away with this because Senate Republicans are complicit. But most importantly, the courts, especially the Supreme Court, is complicit. And so I think one of the places that we have to start is they are the highest court in the land, and they have no ethics guardrails. Now you go down to the lower courts and they do. How much sense does that make? When we know that they're taking money, we have the paper trail, and they refuse to put guardrails on themselves, so it's time for us to do it for them.
Oh, right on, sister. That's what she gonna do. She done told you.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey, AM 560 listeners, Jeff checking in again from JeffBuysYourHouse.com. What I learned serving our great nation in the military is that every mission is unique and success starts with listening. For nearly 20 years, our veteran-led house buying team has taken the time to understand what matters most to each homeowner we serve. Every home has a story, and every seller has different needs. Whether you want a quick closing or need extra time to find your next place, we customize our approach around what works best for you. That's how we've earned hundreds of 5-star Google reviews and an A+ rating with the BBB, by putting relationships first. No repairs needed, no cleanout required, and you pick the closing date that works best for your schedule. At JeffBuysYourHouse.com, we're here to help you through the entire transition, not just the transaction. Are you ready to work with a local team that takes the time to understand your home selling needs? Sell your house to the trusted source by calling us today at 630-895-9530. That's 630-895-9530 or JeffBuysYourHouse.com.
Perhaps you're a collector, or perhaps all of a sudden you have a collection. Maybe it's an inheritance. How do you know what it's worth? This is Sean Thompson for Donley Auction. The market for antiques and collectibles is changing all the time. What is your collection worth right now? Well, I've got an easy way to find out. It's simple. You contact Donley Auctions. With their worldwide audience of live and in-person auctions, they have a good idea of how to tell you exactly what it's worth at exactly right now. They're ready to put top dollar in your pocket. The bigger the collection, the better. Go to DonleyAuctions.com and get the info on all things that they buy and sell to have an idea of exactly what Donley does and how much they need your collection. They have so many buyers, it's a great time to sell. Just simply make a phone call. Donley has traveled all over the country to pick up collections. Just call and talk to the people at Donley Auctions at 815-923-7000. Donley Auctions is your trusted partner in turning your collections into cash. DonleyAuctions.com.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors, a third-generation family-owned business since 1969. We know you're bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows or doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we have been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, a fifth-generation family business. Marvin replacement windows have been known to increase the warmth of your cold rooms by 10 degrees. Think about that, 10 degrees warmer. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you will get a product expert to transform your living spaces, full-time, dedicated professional installers that you can trust in your home, along with the best products like Marvin. These are the reasons we're proud of our 5-star reviews and family legacy. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing are why Woodland Windows and Doors is your trusted window and door expert in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com, or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
From an early age, we ask questions. Why is the sky blue? Where does the sun go at night? Why can't I eat candy for breakfast?
As we grow, the questions continue.
Do you want to go to the prom with me? Can I borrow the car keys? Mom, where's my zit cream? Even adults are inquisitive. What's the meaning of life? How big is the universe? Why can't I eat candy for breakfast?
But of all the questions we get asked at Penny Mustard, most are about the penny sectional.
How can a sectional sofa look so majestic and feel so comfortable at the same time?
Can I get this in my choice of fabric or leather?
If I fall asleep on the penny sectional, can I nap forever? The penny section. Also, do fish get thirsty? The penny section. And circling back to that candy for breakfast thing? The penny sectional, starting at $62.45 at Penny Mustard.
7 locations throughout Chicagoland.
PennyMustard.com. Better versions of what people want.
Penny Mustard Furnishing.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 6:36, I'd like some of you thin honkies to weigh in on this. The New York Times is befuddled. Why are you right-wing extremists obsessed with thinness? What is with the thinness obsession? 6:36, now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 68 degrees in Chicago and AM 560 The Answer. I'm Bob Stevenson in the 560 The Answer newsroom. Harvey police say 2 weekend shootings are tied to a long-running feud between known groups. 5 people were injured at a party, including a 4-year-old. A concealed carry holder returned fire, killing a suspect. Another man was later found dead in a retaliatory shooting. Police say there is no threat to the public. A Chicago woman's behind bars in Iowa accused of running quick change scams at Walmarts across the U.S. Police say 37-year-old Shante Stinson helped steal nearly $3,200 in Davenport alone, and a nationwide review linked her to 50 thefts totaling nearly $30,000. She's being held in Scott County on a $10,000 bond. Chicago police and animal care and control removed 26 dogs from a Southside home Friday afternoon after a report of animal cruelty. Officers found the dogs in the backyard and a garage of a home on West 65th Place. At least one was injured. The investigation is ongoing. This news is a service of Fox Valley Coins. This is a great time to bring in your scrap gold jewelry and sterling flatware, cash or check offered on the spot. FoxValleyCoins.com. A check the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
If you've ever wanted to meet Larry Elder, Hugh Hewitt, Mike Gallagher, or Charlie Kirk, now's your chance. It's AM 560's Terrific Talkers VIP Experience Contest. Enter today for a chance to meet your favorite host and sit in on a live broadcast. The grand prize includes airfare and 3 nights of accommodations. Don't miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Enter today at 560theanswer.com/VIP. That's 560theanswer.com/VIP.
Sponsored by AxeCap Ventures. America, listen up. Gold prices are breaking records. With inflation raging and central banks hoarding, every American should own gold. And like President Trump said, whoever holds the gold makes the rules. AxeCap Ventures owns one of Nevada's largest undeveloped gold deposits and trades for pennies on the dollar. This could be your way to ride the gold boom. AxeCap trades under GARLF on the OTC. Visit axecapventures.ca today. The IRS finally caught up with Louie.
I hadn't paid my taxes in 8 years. I owe the IRS a lot of money.
Louie was in deep trouble.
We're going to take your house, put a lien on your bank account, garnish your pay. They don't care. They're going to take your paycheck.
Louie found out about Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima Tax, they help me. They calm me down. They make me feel comfortable, and I trust them.
Louie has a lot to be thankful for.
I don't owe the IRS anymore, and I'm able to live a comfortable life, a lot better life. It was because of Optima Tax.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation. Take it from Louie.
If you owe the IRS, don't go it alone. Give Optima Tax a call. They can help you.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
My friend Paula just remodeled her kitchen. I feel bad. It's so bland.
Yeah. Everyone's using the same templated designs these days or just refacing cabinets.
Let's check out Forever Remodeling. They do full and custom kitchen remodels from the ground up, just for us.
It'd be nice to have a kitchen that's truly ours.
Exactly.
Don't get the same kitchen design as everyone else. Visit Forever Remodeling today at foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, everremodeling.com. And tell them AM560 sent you.
Are you looking to hire? ZipRecruiter finds the best candidate for your job fast. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Taking a look at your drive in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center with traffic, a service of Aleve on the Edens inbound Lake Cook to Montrose, a 14-minute travel time, 13 minutes outbound Edens Montrose to Lake Cook. On the inbound Kennedy O'Hare to Burn Interchange, a 26-minute ride, a 35-minute travel time on the Kennedy outbound Burn Interchange to O'Hare. On the Eisenhower inbound Jane Addams to Old Post Office, a 30-minute travel time, and a 31-minute drive on the Eisenhower outbound Old Post Office to Jane Addams. Stevenson inbound 355 to Lakeshore Drive, 26 minutes, and a 21-minute ride on the Stevenson outbound Lakeshore Drive to 355. On the Dan Ryan inbound 95th to Burn Interchange, 13 minutes. Heavy on the Dan Ryan outbound Burn Interchange to 95th, 16 minutes. Traffic is heavy because of a crash outbound after 87th in your 2 left lanes. Life doesn't wait, and neither should you. Aleve can help you deal with the pain less throughout the day with just one pill. Aleve lasts up to 12 hours. Don't let those aches and pains hold you back from doing what's important to you. Use as directed. I'm KT. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Now, here's the latest forecast from QC Kinetics.
Today will be partly sunny with a high of 84. Tonight, expect clear skies and humid conditions with a low of 68. Tomorrow will bring a mix of clouds and sun with a chance of a thunderstorm in some areas during the afternoon. The high temperature will reach 86. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Not since Jefferson dined alone has there been a meeting of the minds like Mahir Ahmad and Jessica Gross. These are 2 New York Times propagandists. And they tackled the delicate issue of why the right is obsessed with thinness. Why the right is obsessed with thinness. I mean, before I even get to their offerings, maybe some confessions are in order. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line and text line if you would like to explain your obsession with thinness. I'm going to give you a couple of snippets so you get a feel for this deep thought. The one asks the other. It really doesn't matter which, but it's Ahmad talking to Gross. He's asking questions. Gross is some sort of cultural spirituality expert, at least purports to be. So she's the one being interviewed. The question, The one thing I'm interested in with these particular influencers, she's talking about the healthy living influencers and who sometimes, that have thinness regimens and then sometimes show up in conservative media outlets. And so what's really going on here? How does this vast right-wing conspiracy to promote thinness fly in formation with all the other vast right-wing conspiracies? Yeah. So Ahmad, though, that's one thing I'm interested in with these particular influencers is the desire for the way that they look or how they behave should be in line with certain values that are politically aligned with the conservative movement. How do you see the political aspect of it pairing with the way that these women are presenting themselves physically, online, and in the world? Wow, boy, that's a lot there, Mahir. Anyway, her answer. It's all traditional gender roles. The litany of things that Alex Clark, one fitness influencer who's conservative, the litany of things that Alex Clark listed, it's marriage, babies, fitness, protein. It's all one very narrow image. Anyone who is not conforming to that image is sort of outside of the circle. It's also in a moment where we do see fewer female leaders across the board. I would say Democrats and Republicans. So the idea that women should be physically smaller goes along with the idea that they're not going to be the ones out front taking up space. What? I read it before and I laugh, but every time I read it, I laugh. So the idea that women should be in shape and thus smaller, it's a physical that implicates a metaphysical. It promotes the cultural idea that they should be smaller, smaller than men, patriarchy, and out of the way so they're not taking up physical space. What? You can have diminutive people that go a long way in politics or any other sector. I don't know if anybody's heard, including women. I mean, it is fascinating to listen to the arguments that are made because of the mental gymnastics that are required to get to this idea that there's some nefarious plot afoot to promote thinness as a predicate to brainwash people into being conservatives or some such thing. I mean, it's really okay. That was one of my favorites. And then he goes on to follow up on that important response. Great insight. Ahmad asks Grouse, the desire to be thin is so ubiquitous across time, across millennial, across the political spectrum. I'm curious about how you see the left version of aspiring to thinness, especially in the current moment, and how that compares to the more conservative value system. Are they unique in promoting thinness, these conservative influencers? Are they just part of a general environment right now, which is kind of okay with being unabashedly pro-skinny? She responds, they're just co-opting what's already in the water. I think what happened with the body positivity movement is it got co-opted by the wellness movement. Yeah, it's a real gangland fight between the wellness movement people and the body positivity movement. And so people stopped using language like, oh, I'm doing this to be thin, and instead change our language to, I'm doing this to be healthy. But healthy wasn't always synonymous with thinness in the mainstream. And also, wait for it, it's very white. To be healthy is to be a white supremacist or to promote it. Healthy was always synonymous with thinness in the mainstream, and also it's very white. I think that there's a lot of cultures who are not so obsessed with thinness, but we're all reacting to the mainstream dominant public messaging that we're all getting. There's a lot of studies that show people who are overweight, and especially women who are overweight, are discriminated against. They earn less money. They're treated more poorly in public. It's not just a media creation fixation. It has real-world consequences. Does she present any evidence to support that claim? No, she does not. Why? Because this is a sentimentalist argument. The evidence is not just unnecessary, it is the enemy. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Smaller women are subjugated by the patriarchy, so that's the right-wing angle into it. And thinness or a focus on and a promotion of being healthy is very white. Okay. Yeah. There is this. We've talked about before. Actually, we've talked about with Stephen Bucci. 77% of Americans aged 17 to 24 are not physically fit for military service. They lack the required level of physical fitness to enlist in the military. Maybe that's the push for wellness or thinness, being healthy. What about the incidence of child disease? I mean, this is the basis of the MAHA movement. Now, I know you say, well, that's exactly what you're talking about. It's white, it's MAHA, it's political, it's conservative. No, it's just data-driven. I mean, right? The statistics on childhood obesity, the increase in juvenile diabetes, those do not know a political brand. It's just an increasing problem. Actually, ironically, RFK Jr. spoke to this yesterday in a presser that he did with Brooke Rollins, I should say, the Department of Agriculture Secretary. Marty Makary at FDA was there talking about the Department of Ag eliminating the ability to use SNAP benefits, supplemental nutrition, SNAP benefits to buy junk food, soda, candy. Here's RFK Jr. saying something you've heard him say before about the incidence of disease in kids.
Her changes to the SNAP program are emblematic of that commitment. SNAP, we're spending $405 million a day on SNAP, and about 10% is going to sugary drinks. And and if you add candies to that, it's about 13 to 17%. And we all believe in free choice. We live in a democracy. People can make their own choice about what they're going to buy and what they're not going to buy. If you want to buy a sugary soda, you ought to be able to do that. But the U.S. taxpayer should not pay for it. And the U.S. taxpayer should not be paying to feed kids foods, the poorest kids in our country, with foods that are going to give them diabetes. And then my agency ends up through Medicaid and Medicare paying for those injuries. So we're going to put an end to that, and we're doing it step by step, state by state.
Yeah, I mean that's promotion of some right-wing white supremacist patriarchy. I mean, is there somebody out there that thinks that plying kids with soda and candy is preferable to healthier alternatives? I mean, in fact, I thought there was a first lady once upon a time who was really zero focused on the contents of school lunches in government schools around the country. What was her name again? Michelle something. Was she part of this patriarchy? This conspiracy of honkies to impose thinness on the culture? I mean, this is akin to the Sydney Sweeney ad. I mean, what are you talking about? You're just so far out into the wilderness that I can't go there with you, even if I don't like, conservatives like Proft. I mean, I can't sign on to this. It's opportunity. Rick in Downers Grove.
Hey, good morning. Hey, I'm thinking, couple this with what the Democrats have done to the education system, destroying it, and what the Democrat-run states have done to balance their budget by selling pot. And it seems to me that the Democrats' ideal person is somebody who's fat, dumb, and high. I mean, that's what they're shooting for.
Yeah, something like that. Thanks for the call, Rick. Something like that. body positivity. I mean, remember the ads? Well, this is sort of the Sydney Sweeney ad is the countercultural response to the Marxist cultural zeitgeist. And I don't mean this like the body size thing. I mean it the identitarian thing. That's their identitarian political play because they're actually doing. I mean, it's a classic case of projection, which they always do. They're actually doing what they're accusing, basically, fitness-oriented influencers who happen to be center-right of doing. Because what do they want to do? Including these quote-unquote plus-size influencers or fat influencers or whatever they call themselves, or arguing about I should get a free seat on the free extra seat on the plane if I need it, and they widen the aisles and the whole other J-Bay chick and others. But they want, and so does some of these influencers, want fat people to be a protected class with special rights, special preferences, like other protected classes, minorities, and so forth. I mean, that's they're driving it towards a public policy destination, as opposed to just what RFK Jr. said. I mean, we're not going to subsidize bad choices. We're going to subsidize good ones for families in need. And if you want to do the bad choices, well, you can do that. We're just not going to force other people to pay for it. Barb in Woodridge.
Hello, Dan. I'm a 70-year-old woman who weighs 128 pounds. I was what was normal back in the 1970s and 80s for a woman my age. Everyone looks at me and says, "Oh, you're so thin." But that's only because it's in comparison to everyone else who's so fat. And we have these children now riding around on electric bicycles, for Christ's sake, and electric skateboards. They're not even getting any exercise, much less sitting at home on screens all the time. Nobody wants to make the hard choices and do the hard things, which is careful what you eat, careful what you drink, and exercise a little bit. It's personal choices every single minute of the day. And I would never look at someone and say, "Oh my God, you're so fat," but I can't tell you how many times I look at people and think that. So I don't know what the answer is.
Well, I think you gave us the answer. Thanks for the call, Barb. Careful what you eat, careful what you drink, and exercise. But that's so white. Chuck in Delavan, Wisconsin. This should be good.
I had Ancestry.com, and because my great-grandfather was from Sicily, I'm 10% black, so I'm going to give you the black interpretation of this. I want to thank you yesterday for mentioning my garage band, Moral Rectitude. That was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm going to get down to it. I'm going to say it once, and I've said it again. You're not a lady unless you're 180. I find that the thinner women are a lot easier to make love to. So, and I'm not trying to be funny.
Do you?
Have a great day.
Thanks for the call. Thank God he didn't give us details on why he thinks that or why he finds that. Yeah, you're not a lady if you're not 180. That is the cheesehead mantra, as I understand it, from Chuck. But I do remember, I mean, coming out of COVID, when there was general concern about the sort of median weight gains, men and women, because so many people were sedentary, understandably so, since the government locked them in their homes, basically. So many people were sedentary during COVID. I mean, the weight gains were substantial, 28. It was something like in the high 20s for men and in like the low 40s for women, median for those who gained weight during COVID. And everybody generally understands that's not a positive development. There's nothing body positivity about that. And it's even more concerning, as RFK Jr. said, when it comes to kids and their diets and their activity levels and so forth. So, as I said, this is the search for evidence of racist or patriarchal conspiracies afoot. And it's very much like the the race crime hoaxes. If we can't find actual evidence of racism, then we'll invent it. If we can't find actual instances of white, patriarchal, oppressive, supremacist culture, then we'll invent it. And that's what these two dimwits from the New York Times did.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
When was the last time you hopped out of bed without joint pain or walked downstairs without groaning? Dan Proft here for QC Kinetics Non-Surgical Regeneration. Schedule your free consultation with my friend, Dr. Caravelli. There are thousands of patients who will tell you they wish they would have called sooner. 92% success rate. So many AM 560 listeners turn their lives around with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments that work with your body to help restore and repair damaged joint tissue. Natural cellular therapies. No scalpels, no pills, no steroid shots. I'm talking long-term pain relief without time off from work. Bring your x-rays and MRIs to QC Kinetics for a free, no-pressure chat and thorough evaluation to see if you're a good candidate for regenerative therapy. Appointments are available weekdays and Saturdays. Worst case, you learn something new. Best case, you get your life back. Grab your phone and call now, 312-809-5955. Again, 312-809-5955. One more time, that number for QC Kinetics, 312-809-5955, and tell them I sent you when you call.
Don't miss Destination Retirement with Robert Kuhn every Sunday from 11 to 12. Robert has a different way of looking at retirement from most financial advisors and is happy to share his ideas with you every week. So don't miss what he has to say on AM 560 The Answer. Destination Retirement with Robert Kuhn, Sunday mornings from 11 to 12.
AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and that sound means it's time for in-depth history with Frank, the history teacher from Arlington Heights, because there's nothing new in this world, just the history you don't know, and Frank does. Frank, take it away. Frank? Frank, the history teacher? Do we have Frank? Okay. Well, yes, no. Okay, all right. Well, we'll be right back. Oh, we got him. Okay, now we have him.
Good morning.
There we go. All right, Frank.
Sorry. Yeah, good morning. In the year 1077, the lay investiture controversy gripped Christendom as Pope Gregory VII insisted upon his right to appoint church bishops rather than let local secular nobles or the Holy Roman Emperor decide. This had both theological and economic consequences, so Pope Gregory used his power of excommunication to deny Holy Roman Emperor Henry IV the sacraments in order to assert his authority here. When this failed to move Henry, Pope Gregory threatened interdict, in which all of Henry's subjects would be denied them as well. Famously, Henry came on bended knee to Canossa Castle in Italy to meet with the Pope over this, and had to wait 3 days in the snow before being seen and having his penalty lifted. The church eventually went out here because the population of Christendom deeply feared the consequences of being unable to receive the sacraments. Cosmologically, this meant more time in purgatory for one's soul after earthly death. Unacceptable. So the power of the church over many people's minds was not really challenged until the bubonic plague, when their prayers seemed to be ineffective and was not broken until the Enlightenment and the Age of Reason. So what will it take to break the power of our own version of the medieval church, the media, which has a similar hold on the Western mind? Except for Trump, politicians have bent the knee to them like Henry for decades. Whatever story is told by the media, whether completely truthful or not, appears to be the truth to the vast majority, and therefore must be so, just as papal infallibility, excommunication, and interdict must have been so for the medieval mind. For instance, was Iran's nuclear program really recently obliterated? Or was this just a way to get out of a more serious conflict here, knowing full well that most of us would believe a well-crafted story from the media? It sure has toned down, hasn't it? Marshall McLuhan once informed us the medium was the message. Today it might be more like the medium is the master.
Interesting, Frank. I like the comparison of the media and the church in some respects. So you mentioned the cosmological. I do have to ask: would that make you more of a Saint Anselm cosmological proof of the existence of God, or are you an Aquinas ontological proof of the existence of God.
That's interesting, and I haven't thought about that philosophically that much. So I would probably say more St. Thomas Aquinas.
All right, perhaps
scholasticism. So.
Yes, perhaps a future Frank the History Teacher commentary. Frank, thank you as always. Coming up at 7:07, we're going to talk Middle East politics, among other things, with Leo Leibowitz, editor-at-large for Tablet, tabletmagazine.org. It is now 7 a.m., AM 560, WIND Chicago.
Will Israel try to take over and occupy Gaza? I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's what the Security Cabinet will consider today, with no ceasefire deal in place with Hamas. Fox's Alex Hogan reports.
After truce talks fell through, Israeli officials are now reportedly discussing expanding the offensive in the Strip. It's been 668 days since the start of the war. Of the hostages still held in Gaza, 20 are believed to still potentially be alive. Among them is Eviatar David. Hamas released a video of the 24-year-old appearing emaciated in a tunnel.
Now, there's also an international outcry about starving Palestinians and deadly attacks on crowds near Gaza food distribution sites. The U.S. and Israel are blaming Hamas for stealing a lot of the food that's been sent in. Dozens of Democratic Texas lawmakers remain out of state to block a vote in the legislature on congressional redistricting that could give the GOP 5 more House seats in the 2026 elections. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick tells Fox.
We've had over 2 million people move here in the last couple of years. They're voting more and more Republican, and they deserve and want Republican representation in Congress.
And as Governor Abbott threatens to arrest the lawmakers and try to bring them back to Texas.
Some Democratic governors, like New York Governor Kathy Hochul and California Governor Gavin Newsom, are threatening to retaliate. They're considering options to redraw their own state congressional lines if Republicans in Texas move forward with their plans.
That's Fox's Madeline Rivera. The Trump administration is escalating a new investigation into an old one, reviewing what the president calls the Russia hoax.
Attorney General Pam Bondi signed this order directing an unnamed U.S. federal prosecutor to take evidence to a grand jury relating to an alleged conspiracy to tie then 2016 presidential candidate Donald Trump to Russia.
Fox's David Spunt, director of national intelligence. Tulsi Gabbard's recently declassified documents she alleges shows intel about Russian influence was manipulated by the Obama administration. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 69 degrees in Chicago at AM 560 The Answer. I'm Bob Stevenson in the 560 The Answer newsroom. A teenager is in critical condition after being shot during a robbery on a CTA Red Line train Saturday night. Chicago police say the 18-year-old was approached by a man demanding his belongings before being shot in the chest and side. All happened around 10 p.m. at the 95th Street station. A 38-year-old man's dead and 2 others injured after shooting early Sunday on Chicago's northwest side. Police say the shooting stemmed from an argument. A 28-year-old man's in critical condition. A 44-year-old woman is expected to recover. A weapon was recovered, but no arrests have been made as of now. 3 people are jailed in Chicago following a federal sting targeting Venezuela's Tren de Aragua gang. Officials say the group sold drugs and guns during 2 undercover deals in May and July. Police seized 2 seats, meth mix, and loaded pistols. A couple of men and 1 woman are facing serious charges. A Chicago man's jailed for allegedly shooting a father in front of his fiancée and kids after car horn beeped near him. 42-year-old Paul Garcia faces attempted murder charges. The father was shot twice, but he did survive. Prosecutors say nearly the entire confrontation was caught on camera. At least 12 people were arrested during Lollapalooza 2025 in Grant Park. Chicago officials confirmed that. 42 others were taken to hospitals. It was a 4-day music festival and drew huge crowds and over 170 performers, including Olivia Rodrigo. Officials say the event ran smoothly, though, with heightened safety measures in place. This news is a service of Goldilocks, offering Chicagoland's state-of-the-art smart security systems to protect your home or your business. AM 560 listeners receive 3 months of monitoring free with new installs. Get peace of mind by calling Goldilocks at 708-889-5600. Again, that's 708-889-5600. A check of the roads coming up just a couple of minutes here on AM 560, The Answer.
If you've ever wanted to meet Larry Elder, Hugh Hewitt, Mike Gallagher, or Charlie Kirk, now's your chance. It's AM 560's Terrific Talkers VIP Experience Contest. Enter today for a chance to meet your favorite host and sit in on a live broadcast. The grand prize includes airfare and 3 nights of accommodations. Don't miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Enter today at 560theanswer.com/VIP. That's 560theanswer.com/VIP. The Dinesh D'Souza Podcast, now available on the Salem Podcast Network.
Probably heard, but you don't have to take your shoes off anymore when you go to the airport. This really shows you how stupid government bureaucracy is. One guy takes off his shoes, everybody freaks out, and then for 20 years, all the airlines across the country make tens of millions of people actually pull their shoes off.
Subscribe today on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions of dollars in tax savings through a federal program called the Fresh Start Initiative to aid delinquent taxpayers. This initiative was established for anyone facing financial hardship and unable to pay their back taxes. Qualifying and enrolling in this program will stop all collections, settle your delinquent tax problem, and even reduce what you owe by thousands of dollars. Call the hotline at People's Tax Relief to see if you qualify and get this free information by dialing 800-458-9469. If you have unfiled tax returns or cannot afford to pay your personal or business back taxes, you can now get the help you need. One simple phone call can resolve your tax problem and save you thousands of dollars. To see if you qualify and to get this important free information, call 800-458-9469. 800-458-9469. 800-458-9469.
We all know the importance of good daily habits, whether it's getting your steps in, stretching those limbs, or eating right. Doing it on the regular is key. That's why if you're dealing with everyday aches and pain, it's time to bring Relief Factor into your routine. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Developed by doctors, Relief Factor uses a special formula of 4 natural ingredients. Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain, it helps reduce or even eliminate it. In fact, the longer you take it, the more effective it is. So call 1-800-4-RELIEF and try their 3-week quick start for only $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Simply call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Wherever you're having pain, don't let it keep you from living the life you want. Make Relief Factor part of your daily routine. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF.
You know what really keeps me up at night? It's the criminals feel more and more bold. They have no fear of any consequences because there are none. So I did what anyone with a family should do. I called Goldilocks. They're not just some cookie-cutter security company. Goldilocks has been protecting Chicagoland homes and businesses for 4 decades, 40 years. And they actually listen. Their technician comes out to the house. He takes a look at what you need to make your house a smart home with a security system you can monitor from anywhere. It's built specifically for me and my family. Motion sensors, smart locks, cameras, monitoring, all customized. I don't trust anybody in Illinois to protect my family. I do it, and I did it by calling Goldilocks. I trust Goldilocks to keep my house, my property, and my family safe. Tell them Sean Thompson sent you, and Goldilocks will include 3 months free monitoring with any new installation. Call Goldilocks at 708-899-5600. That's 708-899-5600. Or visit them online at GoldilocksInc.com.
Taking a look at your drive in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center with traffic, a service of Air Right Heating and Cooling on the Edens inbound Lake Cook to Montrose. A 17-minute ride. Edens outbound Montrose to Lake Cook, 14 minutes. And a 37-minute ride on the Kennedy inbound O'Hare to Byrne Interchange. A 34-minute travel time. A Kennedy outbound Byrne Interchange to O'Hare. Eisenhower inbound Jane Addams to Old Post Office, a 42-minute ride. A 37-minute ride on the Eisenhower outbound Old Post Office to Jane Addams. On the Stevenson inbound, 355 to Lakeshore Drive, 32 minutes. And a 27-minute travel time on the outbound Stevenson Lakeshore Drive to 355. On the Dan Ryan inbound 95th to Byrne Interchange, 15 minutes. Air Right Heating and Cooling offering AM 560 listeners $56 off any service, including inspections. Don't wait for a heat wave for that old air conditioner to break down. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. I'm KT. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Now, here's the the latest forecast from QC Kinetics.
Today will be partly sunny with a high of 84. Tonight, expect clear skies and humid conditions with a low of 68. Tomorrow will bring a mix of clouds and sun with a chance of a thunderstorm in some areas during the afternoon. The high temperature will reach 86. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. The situation with the humanitarian aid to Gazans, displaced Gazans in the Middle East as war continues. The response from the Israeli government to the October 7th attack and to the existence of terrorist organizations that want to indiscriminately murder Israelis and eradicate the Jewish people and certainly the Jewish state. We talked about it quite a bit yesterday with Stephen Bucci from the Heritage Foundation, given the back and forth of accusations in the direction of the Gazan Humanitarian Foundation, which is an American project. Pushback from Johnny Moore, the executive chairman, over the weekend on Fox to the suggestion that these aid distribution centers are death traps and designed to be death traps, as a would-be whistleblower and retired Green Beret turned military contractor Tony Aguilar has been alleging on any media outlet that will have him. Started with the BBC and moved over to Tucker Carlson's show and other programs. Stephen Bucci, a bit suspect. Stephen Bucci, former special force officer himself, is suspect of Tony Aguilar's contentions as it pertains to these humanitarian foundation aid centers, and so is Johnny Moore, the executive chairman, of course. Here's what Doctors Without Borders CEO Avril Benoit had to say on Clinton Foundation Donor Zero's weekend program about the situation there and what she believes needs to be done in the interests of preventing malnutrition, starvation primarily, and malnutrition secondarily, in addition to protecting people from the vagaries of war.
All the major orthopedic cases, the trauma, and their bodies are not strong enough to even fight, to be able to withstand the risk of infections. They're not recovering properly, and that's exacerbating the problem in the health facilities, because of course you would want people to have all the chances in the world to be able to overcome their injuries, to discharge them, to make room for others. And so as a consequence, the hospital infrastructure, which Israel has largely destroyed, with the clinics and other outpatient facilities that we have, and with the rest of the humanitarian organizations that are trying to support the medical needs in Gaza, we are completely overwhelmed, and starvation is making things all that much more catastrophic.
So what are the steps that need to be taken?
Well, I would concur with all of the experts who would say we need to flood the zone with as much food as possible. The problem with the GHF is, of course, it's unsafe. It's an inefficient way to deliver aid. People have to cross very unsafe zones to reach those areas that are controlled by the IDF and military contractors from the U.S. And then there are insufficient quantities. You end up in our facilities that are near some of those GHF distribution sites in the south. We always have lots of injuries and deaths as a consequence of every single delivery. And the injuries are not only people being shot as they're leaving the zone with their bags of flour, but it's also from the trampling that happens, the injuries that happen when people are crushing and jumbling over each other because of all the gunshots against unarmed civilians who are just trying to survive with a bit of food aid. And the problem with the airdrops, of course, is that it's incredibly expensive. You don't don't control what's happening on the ground, who really receives the aid. It also has created extremely insecure conditions on the ground, and you can't even drop that much. So each one of these very spectacular visual displays of the parachutes landing on the ground is really the equivalent of a few trucks. What we need is to flood the zone, get all those trucks with the permissions to go in. Obviously, a ceasefire, a real permanent lasting ceasefire, will make it safe enough for the humanitarian organizations to be able to deliver the aid to people in Gaza who desperately need it.
Well, I mean, according to Johnny Moore of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, since this is the focus of the criticism, they haven't had a single truck with aid derailed or have their goods in those trucks stolen by Hamas. That's what he said. Whereas the UN World Food Program has a much lower success rate in terms of delivery, like something on the order of 90% not getting there. It's a complicated picture. By the way, just as a caveat before we get to our guest, Doctors Without Borders sounds like it's not political because these are just doctors and they're trying to take their expertise in Western medicine and bring it to people in need the world over, which is a laudable thing, but they are political. And there was a healthy dose of politics in what Dr. Benoit had to say just there. For more discussion on this, pleased to be joined by Leo Leibowitz, editor-at-large for Tablet and host of the Rootless podcast. Leo, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Pleasure as always.
So give us your handle and the basis for it on this controversy over whether or not there's a sufficient effort being made by the combination of America and Israel to provide humanitarian aid to non-combatant Gazans.
Dan, this is really an absolutely baffling question. Let's assume for 1 second that you believe that it is the duty of any nation to provide a nation with which it is in war, precisely a war that it did not start, with humanitarian aid. That would mean, for example, the United States stopping the war in, say, 1944 and dropping a lot of supplies on Dresden, where people were also, deeply starved during World War II. It sounds incredibly preposterous when suggested about any other nation in the world, except for some reason, Israel. Let's assume that you're saying, okay, look, I hear your point, but these people there are starving. Now, you mentioned very correctly that a very large quantity of the aid that is being permitted by Israel and by the international community to get into Gaza is simply sitting and rotting and or purloined because the UN, as we now know, has become completely enmeshed with Hamas. Hamas has every interest in taking this aid and making sure it does not get to its own people, because Hamas understands it could never win against Israel by means of war. It could only do so if it concocts a good blood libel, a good old-fashioned anti-Semitic blood libel against the Jews, which, by the way, it did when it released a photo of a poor starving boy who was starving because of no other condition that had to do with actual geopolitics. He just had some neurological condition and convinced every newspaper in the West that this was the face of Israeli cruelty. Let's ignore that too. It is a very simple situation. There are 58 hostages held in Gaza, people, civilians, taken from their homes, from their places of work, from a party, as we now know, and as we saw this weekend. These people are on the brink of starvation themselves. We saw a video of Eviatar David looking like an Auschwitz survivor, being forced to dig his own grave. All Hamas has to do, if it truly cares about its own people, is say, you know what, we surrender, which is, what the Nazis eventually did, what the Japanese eventually did, and let the healing of their own people begin. They refuse to do it because they don't care, Dan. All they want to do is tarnish Israel so that they could achieve their one and only goal, which is eradicating the Jewish state and the Jewish people.
You, in a recent op-ed for First Things, firstthings.com, you wrote, Partisans on the left and on the right, fighting bitterly for a larger swath of America's increasingly divided political landscape, have now found a goal around which to unite in harmony. The Jews are our misfortune. I wish that wasn't true, but as there's some on the right that are making it more difficult to say that it isn't true. I think there's a proportionality issue, and I'll let you address that. But we had this story yesterday, the report out that the Trump administration announced U.S. states and cities that behave like an Ivy League school and engage in a BDS, boycott, divestment, and sanction proponents against Israel. BDS cities and states will be denied federal aid tied to natural disasters. Now, this was later updated to say that provision was not in any sort of executive action taken by the president. But the idea that it would be is not a crazy idea. David Reboy makes the point in a discussion on X. Boycotts of nations by individuals or private companies? Sure. Boycotts of nations by states and cities? No. We have one mechanism for foreign policy, and it's the job of the president. And he goes on in a discussion to make the point to those who just like, oh, Israel, and even more graphic than that, as you can imagine. He goes on to say, think for a second like an adult about how difficult it would be for a president to deal with a foreign head of state on tariffs when half of American states are already boycotting that nation's goods and so forth. Right, we have 50 heads of states or more when you include the cities. So I guess there's two points to that. One is the reaction from some on the right to that discussion is disturbing. And some of what Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon have had to say is disturbing. But equally disturbing or more disturbing is sort of what's happened in these mediating institutions controlled by the left. What we see in New York City with, according to recent polling, a majority of Jewish voters in New York City, or at least a plurality of that cohort, supporting Zohran Mamdani for mayor, and it's like, it sort of blows your mind. So I just use that as the backdrop to say, give us a more texture to the statement that the left and right has combined to say Jews are our misfortune.
Well, look, this is obviously a kind of incredibly intricate and I think very, very important discussion. And I agree with you completely that if we're looking at proportionality, the left is still, way ahead in this particular ignoble race. I think we are seeing a lot of voices like Tucker Carlson, et cetera, on the right. But the point that's being missed deliberately and maliciously, look, the point my friend David Reboy is making, I think it's an incredibly salient point. But I think there's a deeper point at play here. I'm an immigrant to this great and godly country. I believe in it and love it with all my might and want it to pursue nothing but its own interest, not the interest of any other country, including Israel, where I was born. However, there is one thing that President Trump and a few others of us understand very, very well. When the thugs are marching down the streets of New York and Chicago and Los Angeles and Boston, holding the banners of Hamas and Hezbollah, they're not really targeting the Jews. They're not really targeting Israel. They're targeting America. This is why they protest the Thanksgiving Day parade. This is why they try to disrupt the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree lighting. Their eventual goal, they're using this as a big excuse, but their eventual goal is to completely bring down all of us. And they're not too coy about this. They will tell this to you to your face. They hate America. They hate our way of life. And they've finally figured out a way to kind of rot it from the inside by kind of blaming it on the Jews. Trump understands this very, very well. He wants to stop and act this. Actors like Tucker, he wants to act rather and stop this. But actors like Tucker Carlson are, pretending like, oh, no, this is about America. Oh, no, we're only asking questions. While Tucker Carlson has on, the prime minister of Iran, while he travels to Russia, while he kind of sits there and cozies up to the Emir of Qatar. These are all American foes. There could be no mistake where American interests lies. American interests lie in curbing any terror organization, group, and state actor that wants to imperil American interests at home and abroad.
Yeah, and the flip side, of course, to all of this is Speaker Johnson at the Wailing Wall the other day talking about the the special relationship with Israel and the Jewish people, and sort of recommitting from his perspective and that of his caucus to that relationship, where I don't think you're going to get Hakeem Jeffries in front of the Wailing Wall saying anything like that anytime soon.
No, I believe that is correct. Look, I think the Democratic Party has lost the thread a very, very long time ago. I mean, it lost the thread on so many things, like trying to ascertain successfully, who is or what is a woman. But they certainly lost the thread when it comes to geopolitics and basic human morality, which is why more and more of them side with Hamas. I think in the Republican Party, there is still a large swath of lawmakers, and I hope and believe a larger swath of voters who understands very well that when we talk about, we stand with Israel, we're not talking about some, magical, inexplicable bond, nor are we even talking just solely about something that has deep, profound religious foundation. We're basically talking about straightforward American interests in an all-important region with one ally that could be trusted to basically serve as a kind of a stronghold for protecting a host of American interests so that America does not have to get involved in regional conflict. That, I think, worldview that used to be common practice on the right, sadly, is now being challenged by some sort of opportunistic actors who see kind of an in to sort of flank the mainstream establishment from the left. I hope that voters will soundly reject this. But again, I think the person who understands the big picture better than anyone is President Trump. And I can only hope that whoever succeeds him as the leader of the Republican Party manages to preserve the same wisdom as him.
Now, in a piece in the outlet where you are editor-at-large, Tablet, the investigative journalist Lee Smith, who's always does good work, I've cited his stories quite a bit, has a really interesting and simultaneously disturbing angle on some of this as it pertains to Tucker and Bannon. His piece is entitled Epstein Gate is Russiagate 2.0. And what he essentially argues is that Trump is right in a sense that Epstein is a hoax that is being perpetrated by the Russiagate perpetrators in order to distract attention away from what they did. And Bannon and Tucker Carlson, by raising the specter of Epstein as a Mossad agent, is actually doing the work of the Russiagate collaborators and undermining MAGA by extension. He also offers this. Bannon appears to be the originator of the Epstein spy theory. After Trump's one-time strategist was pushed out of the White House in 2017, he started meeting with Epstein at his Manhattan mansion, and reportedly, according to people close to him, he thought his host worked with intelligence services. He recorded 15 hours of interviews with the financier, ostensibly to be used in helping to rehabilitate Epstein's reputation. Wow. I mean, that alone. But let me go on. That Bannon hasn't yet released that footage suggests it contains no evidence to corroborate his allegations. Maybe he's embarrassed that he spent 15 hours interviewing Epstein and forgot to ask the man how he says he was part of a Mossad spy ring if he was a spy. Or maybe he didn't ask him because he never believed what he's been telling people about Epstein since 2017. I mean, that's pretty explosive stuff.
I think you said it right there. I mean, Lee I think Lee's completely correct. And I think once you look at it, it's not just explosive. It's just head-scratching, because the deeper you dig into this, the more you see nothing but malice on behalf of these actors who I think feel spurned by President Trump, feel sort of rejected and maybe removed from the power they hoped they would have during the second term, and therefore are doing whatever they can to undermine the president, to undermine MAGA, and more kind of acutely to undermine basic American interests by inventing this absolutely preposterous hoax that this man, Jeffrey Epstein, who was guilty of many things, many heinous things, was somehow not only just a sexual predator who sort of preyed on young women and sort of pinned them out to some powerful men, but actually a super spy operating on behalf of the nefarious Jewish state that used him as a tool to sort of have its tentacles into American politics. If you read the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, that fabricated bit of anti-Semitic vile propaganda released in Russia in the 19th century, it reads almost identical to what Bannon and Tucker Carlson are saying right now. It's just, an English-American version of the same ancient canard. Again, luckily, now we have better ways to actually come up with real information, real facts, and rebut this thing, and remind ourselves what's really at stake when we get distracted by these preposterous stories.
Leo Leibovitz is editor-at-large for Tablet at tabletmag.com. He's also the host of the Rootless podcast. Leo, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate your time.
A pleasure. Thank you so much.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
You need a construction company, but who?
Call Croscom.
A construction company you can trust that shares your Christian and conservative values. For decades, Croscom has been doing work in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin. Roofs, siding, windows, doors, gutters, basically everything for your home or business, even solar. Quality work and professional services that make you feel great about your decision to work with Croscom.
Call Croscom.
630-871-5500. Give them a chance to earn your business. If your repairs are due to storm, fire, or flood damage, you need to
call Croscom.
They're licensed public adjusters. They work for you, not the insurance company. Croscom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout. They know the insurance companies and how to deal with them. They win for you.
Call Croscom.
Croscom Construction and Public Adjusters.
This is Dan Lights with Croscom. You can trust us with your home or business for high-quality work and fair prices. It's the only way we do business.
630-871-5500. CroscomPublicAdjusters.com.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors, a third-generation family-owned business since 1969. We know you're bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows or doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we have been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, a fifth-generation family business. Marvin replacement windows have been known to increase the warmth of your cold rooms by 10 degrees. Think about that, 10 degrees warmer. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you will get a product expert to transform your living spaces, full-time, dedicated professional installers that you can trust in your home, along with the best products like Marvin. These are the reasons we're proud of our 5-star reviews and family legacy. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing are why Woodland Windows and Doors is your trusted window and door expert in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com, or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan. And coming up at 7:37, it's our weekly conversation with Ted Dabrowski, president of WirePoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy and a little bit of politics related. Ted Dabrowski, 7:37. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 70 degrees in Chicago, and I am 560 The Answer. I'm Bob Stevenson, the 560 The Answer newsroom. Chicago police and animal care and control removed 26 dogs from a Southside home Friday afternoon after a report of animal cruelty. Officers found the dogs in the backyard and garage of a home on West 65th Place. At least one was injured. That investigation is ongoing. A Chicago man already on GPS monitoring has been charged with shooting 2 women on North Lawndale. Prosecutors say 31-year-old Nicholas Young was tracked to and from the scene. Both of the women did survive. Young has 8 prior felonies. A judge has denied bond, though, saying monitoring was ineffective in preventing this violent act. Harvey police say a couple of weekend shootings are tied to a long-running feud between known groups. 5 people were injured at a party, including a 4-year-old. concealed carry holder returned fire, killing a suspect. Another man was later found dead in a retaliatory shooting. Police say there's no threat to the public. This news is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Have you been getting high quotes for dental implants? With medical PPO insurance, it is possible to save 90% off on average. See if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Making smiles great again. A check of the roads coming up just a couple of minutes here on AM 560, The Answer.
If you've ever wanted to meet Larry Elder, Hugh Hewitt, Mike Gallagher, or Charlie Kirk, now's your chance. It's AM 560's Terrific Talkers VIP Experience Contest. Enter today for a chance to meet your favorite host and sit in on a live broadcast. The grand prize includes airfare and 3 nights of accommodations. Don't miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Enter today at 560theanswer.com/VIP. That's 560theanswer.com/VIP.
It's Reveille. On Sunday, 57 Texas House Democrats fled the state to prevent a quorum and a redrawing of the congressional map. About 30 of them fled to Illinois like fugitives from the law and held a press conference with Governor Pritzker, who promised them sanctuary. The irony should not be lost on anybody. If stopping the gerrymandering of districts is the reason for them hiding, then they could not have picked a worse state to come to. Illinois is worse than Texas by a long shot. First, the press conference itself was located in the Illinois 8th Congressional District, but directly across the street is the 3rd Congressional District. Less than 1 mile south of that is the 6th Congressional District. And if you go 1 mile north, you pass through the 8th and hit the 3rd Congressional District again. Democrats are the minority in the Texas House, yet they still make up 41% of the House seats. And Democrats hold 34% of the Texas congressional districts. In Illinois, where gerrymandering has pushed Republicans into the superminority, 34% of the seats in the House are Republican, but only 18% of the congressional seats are. That data proves what the publication 538 wrote after the remap in 2021. Quote, Illinois may be the worst Democratic gerrymander in the country, end quote. And no one is more hypocritical on this issue than Governor Pritzker. When he ran for election in 2018, he promised he supported an independent process for drawing representative districts. He oversaw that process himself in 2021, and his first map got thrown out for using faulty data. In the final legislation of the current map, they admitted and wrote in the legislation, quote, this district was drawn for political purposes, end quote. Not surprising, at the press conference, every speaker blamed Trump. And they rolled out their next rally slogan, too. Prevent the Trump Texas takeover. You'll see that at a rally soon near you. I'm Jeannie Ives. Join me Sunday from 7 to 9 p.m. and sign up for my newsletter at breakthrough-ideas.com.
Experience a luxurious summer when you visit Trump International Hotel and Towers, Chicago, a Forbes Travel Guide 5-star hotel. Take in stunning views of the Chicago skyline from the heart of the city, steps away from the iconic Magnificent Mile and the revitalized Riverwalk. Treat yourself to exquisite dining at Terra 16 Restaurant and Rebar Lounge, overlooking the Chicago River and Lake Michigan. Catch the Navy Pier fireworks display from Terra 16's patio on Wednesdays and Saturdays all summer long. Relax in immaculately designed suites that offer the utmost level of comfort. Refresh in the state-of-the-art spa featuring a 75-foot swimming pool, steam and sauna rooms, relaxation lounge, and more. The Trump Hotel Chicago offers sophistication and elegance to downtown Chicago and is a convenient travel destination for your summer getaway. Simply visit Trump Chicago online to make your reservations today and search offers to find the never settle summer stay. Book today.
Salem News Channel is America's fastest growing conservative TV network.
It's an absolute crazy day.
Home to the largest lineup of free speech champions anywhere. Delivering in-depth insight and unapologetic opinion on today's biggest news stories.
Americans aren't going to put up with this anymore.
SNC brings you the news that matters, told with integrity and clarity. Watch Salem News Channel free 24/7 on your television. Stream now on Pluto TV.
Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start looking and feeling your best with Hair Grow by New Nordic. Available at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or in stores at your local CVS.
Taking a look at your drive in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center with traffic, a service of Blindster.com on the Edens inbound Lake Cook to Montrose, 15 minutes. Edens outbound Montrose to Lake Cook, 16 minutes. On the Kennedy inbound O'Hare to Burn Interchange, a 40-minute ride. A 53-minute drive time on the Kennedy outbound Burn Interchange to O'Hare. On the Eisenhower inbound Jane Addams to Old Post Office, it'll take you 51 minutes. A 49-minute ride on the Eisenhower outbound Old Post Office to Jane Addams. On the inbound Stevenson, 355 to Lakeshore Drive, 42 minutes. A 28-minute ride on the Stevenson outbound Lakeshore Drive to 355. On the Dan Ryan inbound 95th to Burn Interchange, 18 minutes. And an 11-minute travel time on the Dan Ryan outbound Burn Interchange to 95th. What if they can guarantee the price of Bitcoin will be $1 million in 2030? Well, they can't, but they can guarantee you that you will save a lot of money on blinds at their company, Blindster.com. Free samples, free shipping, and guaranteed to fit. Shop at Blindster.com. I'm KT. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Now, here's the latest forecast from QC Kinetics.
Today will be partly sunny with a high of 84. Tonight, expect clear skies and humid conditions with a low of 68. Tomorrow will bring a mix of clouds and sun with a chance of a thunderstorm in some areas during the afternoon. The high temperature will reach 86. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Forever Remodeling. Stress-free and high-quality remodeling. View their stunning transformations online at the number 4everremodeling.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Insert Democrat socialist here.
Runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when. You're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and we mentioned this a bit earlier in the program, but I want to bring it back. I want to get Ted Dabrowski to comment on this, even though it's a bit more personal and cultural than strictly policy, but that's okay. He's a three-dimensional human being. He can handle it. The second annual Pan American Congress took place in Mexico City over the weekend. I don't know if you were able to attend because I know so many of you were at the Socialism 2025 conference in Chicago, and it's a lot of travel, I understand. But the stars were out in Mexico City. Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and our very own socialist Spice Girl, Delia Ramirez. Yeah, well, Sean Casten is too, but Delia Ramirez, she doesn't get a lot of attention. Maybe she deserves some more. This is how she opened her remarks at this momentous summit.
Quiero terminar decir unas palabras en español porque yo soy guatemalteca con mucho orgullo, primero que soy americana.
A very popular statement at the conference. The statement, the translation, I am a proud Guatemalan before I am an American. That's a member of Congress saying that. I guess we're inured to it because that's sort of the same thing you would hear from Ilhan Omar, from Omar Fatah, the endorsed candidate for mayor of Minneapolis, perhaps soon to be renamed Mogadishu, Minnesota. I am a proud Guatemalan before I am an American. Is that what this country's about? Is that antithetical to the melting pot concept? Do we want to abandon the melting pot concept and go to the identitarian, balkanized paradigm? Ted Dabrowski is the president of WirePoints, wirepoints.org, all things policy related. Ted, thanks for joining. Illinois policy related. Thanks for the call. Thanks for joining us, Ted. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for starting with this. I actually saw this yesterday. Somebody shot me the video, and it runs so counter to what I lived. And my parents were both immigrants. My mom came from Ecuador when she was a young lady. My dad escaped communist Poland, and he was about 22. And, they came and they created their life here in Chicago. And, this is around 1960, Illinois, Chicago, this is the beacon of opportunity for everybody. And they came here. And, and my parents talked about it a little bit. My dad's been gone for a long time, but, their obsession was assimilation. They knew for their kids, I got a brother and a sister, they knew that for their kids, being American, assimilating, learning the language, English was key. And just becoming great Americans was everything for their kids to be successful, to get jobs, to grow. And, my dad even, my mom, of course, and the kids, we could speak Spanish to my mom. But my dad said, no, you're not going to speak Spanish. And, as a family, we're going to speak in English. We're going to get great. And it's so important. And my parents, and my dad having escaped communism was just a fervent American. And, that's how you build a great America. It doesn't mean that, my parents, love their own countries and they left their own countries, which is where they had their families and their roots and their history. But they became great Americans.
Yeah, right. Right. I am a proud Guatemalan before I am an American. Yeah, that's the ideologue. That's the party apparatchik. I don't think that's the position of most legal immigrants in particular. People that the people that actually took out here because that exactly what you described, exactly what your parents saw here. I don't think that's reflective, but it all sort of gets conflated because of the way that they demagogue these issues to suggest that, if I'm critical of that, then I'm critical of somebody who is proud of their heritage. No, not at all. But the whole thing is we're proud of our individual heritages, but we are proud first and foremost to be Americans and what the idea of this country is. And that just seems to be something that is, I used to think was so basic, and now it is very much in controversy. Yeah,
and we forget a lot of these people fled those countries, not because they don't love their own countries, but because, you take Ecuador, which is an amazing, beautiful country, and I love it. And so I don't critique it in this way, but it's been corrupt for a long time. And, if you want to know what real poverty looks like, just travel a little bit just travel in Ecuador. You'll see what real poverty looks like, and you'll see what corruption looks like. Of course, we all know what Poland looked like, in the height of communism. So, these are tough places. And so you come to America because of its constitution and the freedoms you get. And it's really sad when you see, all these the illegal immigrants, flying the Mexican flag. This is America, and people are forgetting that.
Yeah, and I think there's a perception that that's a prevailing attitude because that's what the press corps focuses upon for the purposes of fomenting division and playing their own identitarian political game. But you get out of the streets with the professional paid-for agitators and the useful idiots, and you get into neighborhoods or communities, and it's just a very different attitude.
Well, yeah, just one more thing. I was talking to a big Hispanic pollster, and he was saying, look, you might see all those flags on TV. You're right, but a lot of people just don't like that. That flood of immigrants has made it much more difficult for Hispanic citizens, for example, to get jobs, or lowers their pay. It makes it more difficult. So it's it is a complex subject, but certainly I'm glad you covered it.
Speaking of difficult to get jobs, it seems like it's difficult to create jobs in Illinois. So it's difficult to get jobs that haven't been created. You did an analysis comparing growth in private sector jobs pre-COVID to just about present, comparing Illinois to the high job growth states. The implication being Illinois isn't one of them. And what did we find?
Well, we don't create jobs in Illinois, and part of that, of course, aligns with we're losing people, right? Our population is flat and falling. So, but for me, and kind of talking about this American ideal, the American ideal is that you find great jobs, you have a lot of opportunity, your wages rise, you take care of your family, and and the rest is history. You live your American dream. In a place like Illinois, right? We in the 7 years since Pritzker's been governor, we're almost at zero jobs. We've created 15,000 net new jobs in 7 years. It's pathetic. It's sad. It's dismal. And you compare that to Texas and Florida that are creating over a million jobs over the same time period.
Well, just
Carolinas and Georgia's 400,000.
Well, yeah, the North Carolina, since that's a slightly smaller population-wise than Illinois, but it's in the ballpark. So 15,500 net jobs over 7 years in Illinois. Over that same time period in North Carolina, including with the Dem governor for a time period, 476,900 jobs. I mean, it's just it's like the whole. This is one of my favorite cover stories from the political class here. Whatever bad is happening, it's happening everywhere. Illinois is just facing it like everybody else. No.
It's not true.
All right. If you actually look at it, there's something very unique going on in Illinois, even when you compare it to, on again, off again, purple states like North Carolina.
We're talking job numbers, but what it means is just lack of opportunity for people. And that's, this is why we lose people. And this is why, companies are setting up in all these states, is because people are attracted to those states. They're incentivized to go there. Taxes are lower. There's, less regulation. There's more freedom. And so, we're losing that battle, which is really sad because, you're talking about average everyday people who just want to do better in Illinois, and they're either doing worse or they're leaving. And that, that's putting us in a spiral that's ugly.
Well, speaking of that, the rumors are various about your potential political interests. You're going to Gandhi it and attempt to be the change you wish to see. At least you're contemplating that. Tell us about why you're thinking about running for governor.
Well, I've been working on this for 15 years, talking about Illinois' problems, trying to work on the solutions. We even put together a whole book on, here's the pension problem and here's a good way to fix it. And, I've watched our leadership in the Republican side, and, we haven't decided to take on the problems in a principled way. And, I always argue that, we pay the highest taxes because we let them do that to us. We have these crazy crime rates because we let them, we let the government do these things. I mean, we let them run over us, and there's no real opposition. And if you look at, we talk about all the debts and the taxes. Look what our legislature just did this past month, right? They passed a law that increased Chicago pensions. It was unanimous, with Democrats and Republicans. Everybody knows that Chicago is broke. Everybody knows that they have huge deficits. Everybody knows that it's shrinking. Everybody knows that these taxes have been going up. And yet our legislature, both Republicans and Democrats, just increased benefits, and Pritzker signed it. And so if we all know it's so bad, why does it happen? And so this is, I think, an opportunity to come in and lead. I think I know, all these issues pretty well. I mean, I don't claim to know everything, but I know the issues well. My past experience was working in a country in Poland. I worked with Citibank in Poland, and I got to lead a bunch of teams to help make a country that had been destroyed by communism, by war. I got to work with a lot of teams, lead teams, to make that one of the best countries in the world right now in terms of growth and opportunity. And I think we just need that excitement, that leadership, and the principles. We got to stay principled. If just stay principled, and we can make the changes. Illinois should be a top 5 state in the country for growth, for opportunity, for wages, for learning, all those things. And we're the bottom 5 for everything. So we have to flip that around. And I think it takes a different mindset and a different leadership. And I'm happy to lend my name in there.
When you say that the Republicans haven't put in the fight, to the extent that it's even discernible, they put in a fight, but they haven't done it in a principled way. What does that mean? In what way have they done it?
We know we have the highest property taxes, so we should do everything to oppose more taxes and do everything to support things that lower taxes. But then you have Republicans voting for things like Amendment 1 that helped enshrine the powers of the unions in the Constitution. How can anybody agree to something like that if they, in theory, are supposed to help everyday Illinois, afford Illinois? And we see it in the laws all the time, this pension thing that just happened. we don't vote in a principled way to show the everyday Illinois that we're with them. We're leaving people hanging, and I think everyday Illinois needs somebody to battle for them right now. The unions, the public sector unions, have Pritzker and the Democrats to battle for them day in and day out. We need to battle every single day for everyday Illinois who are just trying to make ends meet.
And so this means that I shouldn't make it a statement. It's a question. I mean, so is this sort of a Trumpian play in the sense that it is sort of a pox on both the houses here, meaning both parties? It's you're obviously affiliated with the Republican Party, out of necessity, but you're not that doesn't mean you're enthralled or unwilling to criticize the Republican Party as it actually operates.
Well, it's amazing, right? So Jim Edgar created the Edgar ramp and made a mess of pensions. Governor Thompson, he was the one that made COLAs compounded. Republicans have their hands in this because it's a tough place, and many Republicans think that you have to just go along to get along kind of thing. That needs to change too, but it's the whole culture. And what we've lost in Illinois is, and we love sports, we love competition, but we forget about it when it comes to states. We should be competing with other states for talent, for investment, for ideas. And we don't think that way, and we're getting our butts kicked right and left. I mean, I think I told this the other day. I was with a company, and the owner of the company said, I no longer am planning to grow my business in Illinois. Every single dollar I'm investing goes to Georgia, Virginia. And I looked on the map, and all the dots were in other states, and nothing was in Illinois. And we have to change our mentality of how we help that business owner, that entrepreneur, do things here. And we don't think that way anymore. We have to think about winning. We have to. It's good, healthy competition is what makes us all better. And as a state, we need to think that way too.
Ted Dabrowski, President of WirePoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related, and prospective gubernatorial candidates. We're going to have to watch that one. Ted, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
And Ted joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
At AlmostFreeTeeth.com, they're dedicated to making smiles great again. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average to get a beautiful dental implant-supported smile. Check if you qualify right now at AlmostFreeTeeth.com.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest-growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank that cares about your business and is invested in your success. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Chris Johnson, CEO of Classic Cinemas and proud customer of Signature Bank. We are a local family-owned business that is known for free refills on all sizes of popcorn, soft drinks, and ices. With over 9,000 heated recliners in 16 locations, we marry the traditions of the past with today's state-of-the-art technology. Throw in a 30-minute guarantee and an after-movie mint, and you have the perfect night out. As we strive to make every guest our priority, Signature Bank does the same with their customers. The team at Signature Bank is interested in taking my company forward. They have all the resources and solutions of the big banks, but they customize their offerings to meet my business needs. The customer always comes first with Signature Bank.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Let Signature Bank turn your business vision into reality. Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. When was the last time you hopped out of bed without joint pain or walked downstairs without groaning? Dan Proft here for QC Kinetics Non-Surgical Regeneration. These are the sponsors to call. Schedule your free consultation with my friend Dr. Caravelli at QC Kinetics. There are thousands of patients who will tell you they wish they would have called sooner. 92% success rate. So many AM 560 listeners turn their lives around with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments that work with your body to help restore and repair damaged joint tissue. Natural cellular therapies. No scalpels, no pills, no steroid shots. I'm talking long-term relief without time off from work. So bring your x-rays and MRIs to QC Kinetics for a free, no-pressure chat and thorough evaluation to see if you're a good candidate for regenerative therapy. Appointments are available weekdays and Saturdays. Worst case, you learn something new. Best case, you get your life back. Grab your phone and call 312-809-5955. Again, that number, 312-809-5955. Once more, 312-809-5955, and tell them I sent you when you call.
Did you know that AM 560 Radio has a full-service digital marketing division called Salem Surround? If you're a business decision maker, listen up. AM 560 listeners are everywhere your potential audience is. So are our incredible targeting capabilities. We localize digital marketing and put it within reach of every business, small and large, in Chicagoland and beyond. Salem Surround offers AI-powered marketing solutions that reach your ideal audience. Whether or not you tap into the proven live, local, and emotional connection that AM 560 Radio brings, Salem Surround offers a total marketing solution to our partners. All-in-one digital solutions that provide targeted local digital and social media ads, Google AdWords management, website services, video strategy, search optimization, and even a management dashboard to offer you total campaign updates and transparency. Your Salem Surround representative is located right here in Chicago. Experience the Salem Surround digital revolution today. Call 847-472-8951. That's 847-472-8951.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 8:08, the depopulation bomb. Boy, was Paul Ehrlich wrong. Dean Spears, professor of economics, University of Texas at Austin, 8:08.
They are still out of state. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Democratic Texas lawmakers who took trips to blue states to block a vote in the legislature on a Republican congressional redistricting plan. Governor Greg Abbott tells Fox.
Texas has a right to redraw these lines to fully represent the desires of every voter in the state.
He's threatening to send police to arrest the Democrats to bring them back to Texas as New York and California make threats of their own to do their own redistricting.
California's draft plan has not been made public, but the Associated Press reports that it could boost the Democratic margin in 48 of the state's 52 congressional seats. Democrats currently hold 43 of those seats. Texas lawmakers began redrawing the congressional maps after President Trump said last month that he wanted Texas to create 5 additional Republican seats in order to help the GOP hold on to the House in the 2026 midterm elections.
That's Fox's Tanya J. Powers. 2 days before new U.S. tariffs take effect on imports from dozens of countries, President Trump just told CNBC he might make a change for India.
We settled on 25%, but I think I'm going to raise that very substantially over the next 24 hours because they're buying Russian oil. They're fueling the war machine.
But oil prices have fallen the past few days, and the president also says that could harm Russian leader Vladimir Putin's war machine in Ukraine.
Putin will stop killing people if you get energy down another $10 a barrel. He's going to have no choice because his economy stinks.
The president's given Russia a Friday deadline to agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine or face new economic sanctions. Security officials in Israel will meet today amid reports of a plan to escalate the war against Hamas and then occupy Gaza, where Palestinians say more people were killed today and continued attacks near food distribution sites. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in a social media video, called allegations that Israel is starving Palestinian children lies, saying they've sent in tons of food.
In the last few months, that food has not been reaching the Palestinian civilians because Hamas is stealing it.
America's listening to Fox News.
WIND, Chicago.
Good morning. It is 71 degrees in Chicago at AM 560 The Answer. I'm Bob Stevenson in the 560 The Answer newsroom. A Chicago woman is behind bars in Iowa, accused of running quick change scams at Walmarts all across the U.S. Police say 37-year-old Shantae Stinson helped steal nearly $3,200 in Davenport alone. A nationwide review linked her to 50 thefts totaling nearly $38,000. She's being held in Scott County on a $10,000 bond. Chicago police are investigating a deadly hit-and-run on the south side. A 31-year-old man was found in the street about 3:20 in the morning Sunday on South Stewart Avenue. 3 people are jailed in Chicago following a federal sting targeting Venezuela's Trendy Aragua gang. Officials say the group sold drugs and guns during 2 undercover deals in May and July. Police seized Tusi, which is a meth mix, as well as some loaded pistols. A couple of men and 1 woman are facing serious charges. A Chicago man's jailed for allegedly shooting a father in front of his fiancée and kids after a car horn beeped near him. 42-year-old Paul Garcia faces attempted murder charges. The father was shot twice. He did survive, though. Prosecutors say nearly the entire confrontation was caught on camera. A 38-year-old man's dead, a couple of others injured in a shooting early Sunday on Chicago's northwest side. Police say the shooting stemmed from an argument. A 28-year-old man is in critical condition. A 44-year-old woman is expected to recover. A weapon was recovered, but no arrests have been made as of yet. This news is a service of In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr., now heard on Sunday morning at 7:30 on AM 560. Tune in and find hope as Jim Scudder explores God's Word and His world each Sunday morning right here on AM 560, The Answer. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes. But right now, time for the AM 560 Business Beat. The Business Beat is sponsored by Signature Bank.
I'm Charles Payne, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Stock futures have been trading mostly higher after yesterday's upbeat session on Wall Street. Friday's weaker than expected employment report has investors betting the Federal Reserve will be cutting interest rates. Market participants now expect at least 0.25% cuts by the end of the year. Earnings are mixed. Pfizer shares up 3%. The pharma giant's boosting its forecast for the year. DuPont's forecast is more optimistic after a better than expected quarter. Shares are up 5%. DuPont is seeing demand from tech companies. It supports chip manufacturing, packaging, and assembly. Though Caterpillar shares are down 4%, the construction and farm equipment maker is reporting cooling demand and higher costs tied to U.S. tariffs. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda. Invested in you.
Join John Anthony, host of Black and Right, for a cruise on Lake Michigan, Saturday, September 6th. Come aboard the luxury yacht Free Spirit for a fun afternoon with fellow AM 560 listeners. Enjoy great food and beverages and be a part of the live broadcast of Black and Right with John Anthony. Tickets are on sale now at 560theanswer.com/cruise. That's 560theanswer.com/cruise. Don't miss In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr., now heard on Sunday mornings at 7:30. Tune in and find hope as Jim Scudder explores God's Word and His world each Sunday morning right here on AM 560, The Answer.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6745. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com
or call 800-575-6745. That's 800-575-6745.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
It's Dr. David Kolbaba. Hey, let me tell you about our age analysis assessment. It takes just a few seconds to scan for those advanced glycated end products that cause premature aging. And then we'll briefly go over your results and give you a few things for you to do to improve. And then we'll retest you in about 60 days. And you'll pay our special low price for your first assessment, and I'll pay for your second one. That's right. Your follow-up age analysis assessment is on me. And we're going to compare your biologic age with your chronologic age, and then we're going to help you determine if your biologic age is on par with your chronologic age. But you got to make that call today, not tomorrow, but today. It's our HealthQuest radio hotline, 800-794-1855. That's 800-794-1855. Second assessment free if you make that call right now. 800-794-1855. It's HealthQuest Radio with me, Dr. David Kolbaba, Saturday mornings at 11.
We all know the importance of good daily habits, whether it's getting your steps in, stretching those limbs, or eating right. Doing it on the regular is key. That's why if you're dealing with everyday aches and pain, it's time to bring Relief Factor into your routine. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Developed by doctors, Relief Factor uses a special formula of 4 natural ingredients. Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain, it helps reduce or even eliminate it. In fact, the longer you take it, the more effective it is. So call 1-800-4-RELIEF and try their 3-week quick start for only $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Simply call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Wherever you're having pain, don't let it keep you from living the life you want. Make Relief Factor part of your daily routine. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF.
Taking a look at your drive in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center with traffic, a service of quick delivery service. Eden's inbound Lake Cook to Montrose, an 18-minute travel time. 21 minutes outbound Eden's, Montrose to Lake Cook. A 51-minute ride on the Kennedy inbound O'Hare to Byrne Interchange. 55 minutes Kennedy outbound Byrne Interchange to O'Hare. A 30-minute delay on the Eisenhower inbound Jane Addams to Old Post Office. It'll take you 61 minutes. A 51-minute ride Eisenhower outbound Old Post Office to Jane Addams. 42 minutes on the Stevenson inbound from 355 to Lakeshore Drive. The Stevenson outbound Lakeshore Drive to 355, 37 minutes. On the inbound Dan Ryan, 95th to Byrne Interchange, 19 minutes. And an 11-minute travel time Dan Ryan outbound Byrne Interchange to 95th. Make Quick Delivery your personal ground crew anytime, anywhere, any place when you need to move your shipment or freight. Quick Delivery will get it there. Get a quote in advance and eliminate any surprises at quickdelivery.com. I'm KT. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Now here's the latest forecast from QC Kinetics.
Today will be partly sunny with a high of 84. Tonight, expect clear skies and humid conditions with a low of 68. Tomorrow will bring a mix of clouds and sun with a chance of a thunderstorm in some areas during the afternoon. The high temperature will reach 86. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering smart security systems to homes and businesses. Call Goldilocks at 708-889-5600.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and perhaps the last, 5 decades of scaring us with ecological catastrophe stories is part of the explanation to the question, why are Americans not having kids? Not at replacement rate, at least. We have immigrants doing the jobs Americans don't want to do and having the kids they don't want to have. But maybe the ecological apocalypse that has been predicted for these many decades is part of it. Certainly that's what you hear when you listen to ignoramuses like AOC prattle on about why have kids when if we don't eliminate fossil fuels, the planet will cease to exist, will collapse on itself like a dying star by 2030. And no matter how often they're wildly wrong, the end times predictions continue unabated. I mean, really, go back. This isn't just, an Al Gorean phenomenon, although Al Gore was featured in this 1982 report by Dan Rather, venerable newsman Dan Rather. Yeah, the propagandizing has been going on long before the cable news channels, hasn't it?
Concern about rising temperatures on planet Earth heated up a hearing here in Washington today. For years, scientists have theorized about the dangers of the so-called greenhouse effect, the warming of the Earth's atmosphere due to the burning of coal and oil. And in recent months, as David Culhane reports, research has uncovered facts to support that theory.
Many scientists claim that the temperature of the Earth's atmosphere has been rising over the past 100 years, that the great sheets of pack ice in Antarctica are melting at a much more rapid rate than previously. And finally, that the sea level has been rising with increasing swiftness over the past 40 years. If these scientists are correct, about 25% of Florida would be flooded, along with low-lying areas all over the world. Climate changes could produce widespread disruption of agriculture. The American Farm Belt might be too dry, and the wheat and corn crops would have to move to Canada. Scientists blame the odorless, colorless carbon dioxide gas for these potentially dangerous changes around the planet. It is the greenhouse effect. The gas allows sunlight to filter down and warm the earth. But like the glass of a greenhouse, the carbon dioxide tends to trap heat so that it cannot rise into space. The scientists maintain that the coal, oil, and gas we've been burning for 100 years have produced more and more carbon dioxide and helped overheat the earth. Now, some political leaders endorse the demands for more CO2 monitoring stations, like this one in Hawaii. And they share the anger of the scientists at Reagan administration budget cuts at a time when they feel closer to getting definitive answers.
We are not doing the kind of research that we should be doing to determine whether or not these scientists who are so alarmed are correct in their assessment.
And what they find out will affect the lives and fortunes of millions of people, the very survival of cities like this one. David Culhane, CBS News, New York.
Yeah, standing in Hudson Bay. The survival of New York. 25% of Florida will be flooded. And, of course, in the intervening 4 decades, Florida has become a population job development magnet. I've got some swampland in Florida to sell you. Went from a punchline to the reality. I've got some swampland. You could put a housing development in a golf course and bundle the membership, and people will come. But it's not, so this is not so much about the same old story that they have been telling for so many generations about ecological disasters. And it's also not to be willy-nilly about them, but it's just all the hysterics. The best part of that, that 2-minute report, which we've been hammered with, again, decade after decade after decade, no matter how accurate those predictions, modeling turned out to be. The scientists, this monolithic group of scientists that shall never be named. It's just this generic group of scientists. You're not going to challenge the scientists, are you? The scientists say this and the scientists say that. There's one opinion held by all of those who call themselves scientists, when of course that's not the fact. That's sort of the most insidious aspect of the propagandizing that's done by people like the Legacy News, we call them now. But there is a real issue with population and population growth. If you're not growing, you're dying. And, we're not growing families. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Dean Spears, Associate Professor of Economics at the University of Texas at Austin. Also, co-author of After the Spike, Population, Progress, and the Case for People, the alternative case. Dean Spears, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So we know Paul Ehrlich was spectacularly wrong and the population bomb was a dud. And in part, that's because he didn't understand, apparently, that food grows geometrically, food production does, and population grows exponentially. And so it's not quite what Malthus understood would come to pass. But it turns out that so the population bomb was a dud, but we have a depopulation bomb, which is sort of the title of a piece that the Wall Street Journal did, in part on the basis of your work and the work of a colleague, Michael Garuso. Tell us about it.
So right now, the most likely future for the world's population is global depopulation, where generation after generation gets smaller than what came before. And you mentioned the population bomb in Ehrlich, and we have all been hearing a story for decades where the main worry is overpopulation. The size of the world's population would grow unendingly without bounds. But in fact, all along, while the world's population has been growing, the birth rate, the average number of children, has been falling. Now, to start with where we are, for thousands of years, the the size of the world population didn't change very much. There were about 5 million of us at the beginning of the Common Era, roughly the population of Metro Atlanta. But a few hundred years ago, humanity got better at keeping one another alive, and especially at keeping children alive. That's mainly because of the germ theory of disease, sanitation, antibiotics, nutrition. And so as children began to be more likely to survive, the children who were born, the size of the population began growing quickly to about 1 billion of us in 1800, doubling in the century after that, and quadrupling in the century after that to our present, a little bit more than 8 billion people. But that's projected to change soon. The central projection of the demographers at the United Nations is that within the lifetime of a child born today, say in the 2080s, the size of the world population is going to peak and then begin to decline. No major demographic forecasts really expect anything different. The other population scientist groups, if anything, put the peak even sooner. And once we hit this decline, once humanity begins to grow smaller, the downslope could be every bit as fast and every bit as exponential as the upslope. One way of looking at it is that the average birth rate in the United States right now is 1.6 kids per 2 adults on average, and Europe is a little bit lower than 1.5. But if the whole world were to average 1.5, which is not that much lower than the U.S. today, then our numbers would fall by close to 10% per decade, or by about 2/3 per century. And so the question that we're trying to raise in our book after the spike is that a future to welcome, or should we instead be working towards an alternative future where the size of the population stabilizes at some good level?
And just for context, right, as I understand it, replacement rate is you said we're at 1.6. Replacement rate is 2.1. Is that right?
That's right. The United States is at 1.6. The world as a whole is at 2.3. Where I teach in Texas is at 1.8. But other U.S. states are even lower. Vermont, for example, is around 1.4. No U.S. state, every U.S. state has fallen below this level of 2. Even places with higher birth rates like Oklahoma or Utah or Kansas. Every U.S. state has fallen below 2 at some point. Now, I said 2, you said 2.1. They're not very different. The truth is that there's no one-size-fits-all answer for the average number of births that would stabilize the population, in part because it depends on the infant mortality rate, in part because it depends on how many boys and girls are born. But if it's below 2, I mean, you can sort of think of the basic biology of where people come from. If it's below 2 births per 2 adults on average, then we can be pretty sure that the population is going to get smaller. And 2/3 of countries already are below this 2 births per 2 adults.
Well, and so, so part of this is what the demographics look like in terms of the populations that are growing at or above replacement rate and the populations that are not. But more just generally, as you were referencing, I don't want to get into the business of some of these climate alarmists who are telling us what the world is going to look like in 2070 if we don't eliminate fossil fuels, and it's all based on models and theories and maybe just sentimentality. It's hard to say. But so you're talking about 2080 and on this track and 10% generation after generation. Why should we be terribly concerned about it now? It seems like, maybe if things get a little bit more materially comfortable for a wider swath of Americans over time, then people will have more kids. Or if we reorient our culture a little bit more towards family, then people will get married earlier again and have more kids. So, I mean, it's just maybe we don't need to think about sort of a larger a cultural focus on this, because if we just make some minor adjustments and get the right political leadership, then things will take care of themselves.
I want to pick out at least three parts of that to talk about, because there's so much here that's interesting. One is your question of why now. One is the question you brought up about affordability. And another thing you brought up is age of marriage. And I think each of those are something interesting to dive into. So on the question of why now, I think to some extent, I agree with what you're saying, that it's not going to make anything better to say that this is the sort of urgent crisis where we need to throw out thoughtfulness and just start rapidly making changes, start passing laws. It's not the time to be rapidly making changes or passing laws. It's the time to be starting a conversation and looking ahead to the future, so that we don't have to declare an urgent crisis and be careless, but we can get more people involved in reflecting, are we headed on the path that we want? Or since there are still decades since there are decades ahead of us, would it be better to be moving towards something else? So I completely agree that what we need to do right now is start the research, start the social science, start the conversation, start having discussions like this one. A lot of people still believe that we're on the path to a population that's going to grow and grow without ending. And so the first step is getting people to update their facts and see that that's not the case, and the birth rates have been falling. And a lot of people, when they find out that the most likely future is global depopulation, is to say, oh, well, that's clearly something to welcome. That's going to solve our problems. And I think that's also a perspective that we need to confront. And as we have conversations like this one, I think more people will start to say maybe stabilization would be a future worth working towards. And at that point, we'll hopefully also have more of the evidence base that would have us looking for solutions. So you're right. It's now is not the time necessarily to act so much as it's the time to think and talk and learn. Well,
but to that point that you were just referencing, should we even worry about depopulation? Because, a couple billion fewer people, and, there's less garbage at Yosemite, and we're better stewards of our environment, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think so. That's one of the first responses we get, that a smaller population would be something to welcome to solve our environmental problems. And you can, garbage at Yosemite. You've mentioned climate change, and it's true that people do polluting things, and people have caused environmental problems. But the question is whether fewer people is the solution to those environmental problems, especially fewer people right now at this point in history. The thing is, the population is a large ship, slow to turn, and almost anything that might change birth rates to any feasible degree, even if it magically started right away, just isn't going to cause a very big deviation in the most likely path of the world's population for the coming few decades. So any conversation we're having is about what sort of future we would want after the population peaks or spikes and begins to decline. But for the coming decades, the population is going to keep growing. So, if a child is born today, that child might be deciding whether or not to have kids 20 years from now, 30 years from now, decades in the future, which is after the sorts of targets and deadlines that we hear about for climate challenges. So the first reason that depopulation isn't going to be any sort of solution to environmental challenges is that it just comes too slow or too late. But there's another reason, which is that where humanity has made progress against environmental challenges before, it's never been by shrinking the population. So, in the 80s, when I was a kid, I heard about the hole in the ozone layer from chlorofluorocarbons. I've got two kids. They didn't make the hole in the ozone layer any worse because they were born in the last few years, and humanity has more or less ended the use of CFCs through the Montreal Protocol in 1987. My kids didn't any lead to the atmosphere from driving around in leaded gasoline cars because we ended leaded gasoline in the 1970s with the Clean Air Act. The way that humanity has made progress against its environmental challenges in the past has always been by changing what people do. And that's, what we would have to do again. It's not about having fewer people.
Dean Spears is Associate Professor of Economics at the University of Texas at Austin, co-author of After the Spike, Population, Progress, and the Case for People. Professor Spears, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, doctors Economos, Gay Vallis, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now. Along with general dentistry, Best Dental Group is a multidiscipline practice with an orthodontist, periodontist, and prosthetic specialists on site. They use the newest breakthroughs in dental technology such as titanium implants, Invisalign clear braces, and laser treatments. Don't let fear get in the way. They can recommend sedation to make your experience as comfortable as possible. Best Dental Group is located in historic downtown Bartlett and is a multilingual office. Call 630-830-4930, 630-830-4930, or visit bestdental.org. Best Dental Group, sharing your conservative values and helping you to conserve your teeth.
Too often, cremated remains are kept at home, then forgotten. At Queen of Heaven Cemetery in Hillside, we have your cremation options. Come visit our new cremation garden, see our beautiful granite columbariums, or view our elegant indoor glass front niches. These offer sacred, lasting ways to honor your loved one. If cremation is your choice, our memorialization is a forever option. Give them the dignity of a permanent resting place where they'll be remembered for generations. Visit us today, CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org.
Salem News Channel is America's fastest growing conservative TV network.
It's an absolute crazy day.
Home to the largest lineup of free speech champions anywhere. Delivering in-depth insight and unapologetic opinion on today's biggest news stories.
Americans aren't going to put up with this anymore.
SNC brings you the news that matters, told with integrity and clarity. Watch Salem News Channel free 24/7 on your television. Stream now on Pluto TV.
Hey, heard you're getting ready to move.
We just listed our house on the market.
Just make sure you have the right attorney.
Doesn't the real estate agent take care of all that?
They stay involved, but you want to make sure you have a great lawyer that's negotiating the terms, helping resolve inspection items, clearing up title issues, preparing the deed and other documents, and attending the closing.
The attorneys at Nauman & Associates in Elk Grove Village have decades of experience handling real estate transactions every day all over Chicagoland. NALawGroup.com.
Welcome back to Ask Hasselus.
I believe in aliens, ghosts, and UFOs, but I don't believe you.
Huh?
I'm convinced the Earth is flat and the moon landing was faked.
Okay.
But when you say Hasselus Mattress don't have no employees, well, that's just crazy talk.
It's true. Hasselus Mattress showrooms are employee-free. Give our mattresses a try with no pushy sales guy.
Okay, sure. You probably think birds are real, too.
All I know is that our 35 beds from the top 5 brands start at $393. Free next-day delivery, too.
Do these mattresses come from Area 51?
We're talking big names like Sealy Posturepedic and Beautyrest.
And who's supporting your operation? The Illuminati?
If you need support, through Monday, get a free adjustable base with any new mattress.
That's what the lizard people told you to say.
Save on Beautyrest, Sealy Posturepedic, and more. And get a free adjustable base through Monday at Hasselus Mattress. Open 9 to 9. Find an employee-free showroom near you at Hasselus.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Coming up at 8:38. The unemployment number is not the only useless number. So is GDP. At least that's what John Tammany from RealClearMarkets.com has to say. We'll hear his explanation at 8:38. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 72 degrees in Chicago at AM 560 The Answer. I'm Bob Stevenson in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. At least 12 people were arrested during Lollapalooza 2025 in Grant Park. Chicago officials have confirmed this for us. 42 others were taken to hospitals. The 4-day music festival drew huge crowds and over 170 performers. Officials say the event ran smoothly, though, with heightened safety measures in place. Harvey police say 2 weekend shootings are tied to a long-running feud between some known groups. 5 people were injured at a party. Those included a 4-year-old. Police say there is no threat to the public, though. A teenager is in critical condition after being shot during a robbery on a CTA Red Line train Saturday night. Chicago police say the 18-year-old was approached by a man demanding his belongings before being shot in the chest and side. All that happened around 10 p.m. at the 95th Street station. This news is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Have you been getting high quotes from dental implants? With medical PPO insurance, it is possible to save 90% off on average. See if you qualify today at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Making smiles great again. A check of the roads is coming up in just 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Charlie Kirk sees a generation that doesn't own anything.
When you rent a car from Hertz or from Avis, do you wash it? Of course not. It's not yours. And it's no different than how people are living in apartments endlessly till they're 32, 33. And what's happened is an entire generation, they're making their landlords rich, and they're experiencing none of the upside of this economy.
The Charlie Kirk Show. Weekdays at 11, right before Scott Jennings at 1 on AM 560. The Answer.
This is an urgent message for investors over the age of 50. Silver is on the verge of making history. This is an opportunity you can't miss. We're Advantage Gold, the #1 rated precious metals company in America, and we've helped thousands of investors move their IRA, 401k, or retirement account into physical gold and silver safely and securely. Call 800-900-8000 now and get our free 2025 Silver Investor Report and learn why now could be the best time to own physical silver. In this eye-opening guide, we reveal why silver is surging and could make new all-time highs, how to protect your retirement from inflation and market chaos, and the little-known IRS loophole that lets you own gold, silver, and even platinum, 100% tax and penalty-free. Plus, you'll learn how to get up to $10,000 in free silver with a qualifying purchase. But don't wait for this opportunity to pass you by. Call us now and learn how to own physical silver today the smart way. Call 800-900-8000 now. That's 800-900-8000. Or visit us at AdvantageGold.com. Past performance may vary. Consult your financial or tax advisor. Call us at 800-900-8000.
Chicagoland traffic. The Ike, the Stevenson, the dreaded 294. You sitting in traffic is not time well spent. Time is money.
Oh, come on, man. What's the slowdown for?
Especially when you're trying to do your own company deliveries.
What is happening up there? I got things to deliver.
But instead of sitting there getting more and more frustrated,
please, can we go any slower?
You could be back at the shop getting work done.
I should have stayed at work and actually worked.
Get Quick Delivery Service to battle the traffic for you. They'll make your deliveries while you get other things done. Quick Delivery Service makes it easy. No forms, no labels, no scanning. They'll deliver large pallets of materials to important documents. Simply tell Quick Delivery Service where it's going. They'll pick it up and get it to your destination quickly. Plus, your deliveries are tracked with real-time GPS notifications. Visit quickdelivery.com and stay out of traffic.
Oh no, this exit's closed?
Call now for a free quote. 847-534-2244 or go to quickdelivery.com.
This hourly segment is sponsored by Protecting Your Assets with Steve Shyman. Listen Saturday mornings at 8. Learn more at willsave.com.
Taking a look at your drive in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center with traffic, a service of Blindster.com. Edens inbound, Lake Cook to Montrose, 16 minutes. 24-minute travel time, Edens outbound, Montrose to Lake Cook. A 57-minute drive time on the Kennedy inbound, O'Hare to Byrne Interchange. And 51 minutes, Kennedy outbound, Byrne Interchange to O'Hare. 52-minute ride time on Eisenhower inbound, Jane Addams to the Old Post Office. Eisenhower outbound, Old Post Office to Jane Addams, 54 minutes. A 42-minute travel time on the Stevenson inbound from 355 to Lakeshore Drive. Stevenson outbound, Lakeshore Drive to 355, just under 30 minutes. Dan Ryan inbound between 95th and the Byrne Interchange, 20 minutes, and an 11-minute travel time. Dan Ryan outbound, Byrne Interchange to 95th. Looking for affordable blinds, shades, or shutters for your home? Don't hire an expensive pro. Check out Blindster.com, where they offer custom homemade window coverings at guaranteed low prices with a team of pros ready to help you every step of the way. Blindster.com. I'm KT. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Now here's the latest forecast from QC Kinetics.
Today will be partly sunny with the high of 84. Tonight, expect clear skies and humid conditions with a low of 68. Tomorrow will bring a mix of clouds and sun with a chance of a thunderstorm in some areas during the afternoon. The high temperature will reach 86. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Yesterday, talked a bit about the contretemps over Trump's firing of a functionary at the Department of Labor's Bureau of Labor Statistics over the unemployment number, or the jobs number, after that unexpectedly low number came out on Friday, and then the corrections for the previous 2 months were massive. But as we talked about yesterday, in part with Carol Roth, I mean, for the Department of Labor to be off by a wide margin, at least, I mean, you know, their own survey data against their own survey data. I don't even know how you know if the correction is closer or the initial projection is closer. And that's sort of the point. The methodology is dubious, and so it's a number to be discounted. And we've been saying that for years on the show, but it's not to be discounted if everybody believes it's important. And this is the rub. So on the one hand, I mean, you know, we broadcast here in Chicago from a city where a majority of people think all kinds of things are true that are in fact not true. But if everybody decides that this is true, you know, then and you're trying to argue, you know, from a different perspective, it just doesn't have any currency when it comes to how things will actually move. You know, it's like looking at the fundamentals of the market and saying, well, this just doesn't make any sense. This is a sugar high. There's no way this is sustainable, and so on and so forth, and betting against City Hall. But as long as City Hall is continuing to manipulate the market through asset purchases, like, for example, a decade of quantitative easing, then you're going to be wrong even though you're right. So how do we sift through how much attention to pay to things like unemployment rate, monthly jobs number, and even, as John Tammany writes, GDP, which he calls a, quote, worthless calculation, unquote, as well. John Tammany is the editor of Real Clear Markets, realclearmarkets.com. He's also the author of The Money Confusion, How Illiteracy About Currencies and Inflation Sets the Stage for the Crypto Revolution. John, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Well, first tell us why the GDP is the GDP number that you know, 3% growth in the Q2, big number, hooray, why that is meaningless. And then also, does it matter if it's meaningless if everybody believes it's meaningful?
It matters that it's meaningless, and it certainly is meaningless. Let's never forget that government, as we've discussed numerous times on your show, has no resources. So when governments spend, there's no growth in it by definition. The central planning of resources never grows an economy. But even more important, governments only have money to spend insofar as the economy's already grown. And so to pretend that government increases GDP is a monument to double counting. There's no growth. There's growth. Subsequently, there's government spending. Let's add that easily the most bullish aspect of economic activity is imports, because that signals you're producing in a way that you're attracting the production of the rest of the world. But if imports surge, which is what happened in the first quarter this year, that brings down the GDP number. Mm-hmm. Let's throw in the third thing. If suddenly Chicago wanted to, quote, stimulate its economy in the eyes of economists, they could hire every unemployed person to dig holes and then refill them. That would actually grow Chicago's economy without growing it at all.
Don't give them any ideas.
Grows GDP. Yeah, no, but it's also what grows GDP. It's just a terrible number, and so you knew it was going to go up, and how you knew it was going up was that it went down in the first quarter. Why did it go down in the first quarter? There was an import surge to get ahead of the Trump tariffs. And so with the pause in the tariffs, obviously there's going to be a reduction in imports that was going to push the number up. I mean, that both sides continue to kneel at this number is just so embarrassing.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but then explain how it's a meaningless number. You explain that, but it should be treated as meaningless, even though you have all these institutional interests that you just referenced that treat it as meaningful.
Well, but okay, they treat it as meaningful, but markets always speak, and that would be my pushback on your comment about QE. Markets always speak. GDP soared under Jimmy Carter. Did markets rise under Jimmy Carter? No, it was a lousy time to be an investor. Markets always know, and they see around it. Economists worship a lot of things that don't make sense, and we get on with our lives with good reason.
The back and forth over the fate of Jerome Powell. I know we've touched on this before, but just to revisit it since it's front and center. Does it matter who the Fed chairman is?
No, of course it doesn't. Because if it mattered who the Fed chairman was, we'd be in a world of hurt, because we'd be in a world of hurt because one person could have so much control over credit and things like that. That's why I don't get why so many – you and I discussed this the last time I was on your show. Kevin Warsh doesn't need this job. He's married to the daughter of a billionaire. He could get any job at any hedge fund in the world or private equity fund in the world based on his past at the Fed. Why would he want a job that, basically you're following the markets? The markets decide what the cost of credit is. Everyone's got a different credit cost. Every business does. Why would you want this job?
Because he can stay in those $2 billion those $2 billion digs they're building or renovating.
Yeah, I suppose that'd be pretty cool. But J.P. Morgan's got a $2 billion renovation going on in New York right now. Get a job with them. It's a better job. And if inevitably there's an economic crack up, there are, because governments make mistakes. You're going to be blamed for it if you're at the Fed. I mean, the Fed's perfect. It's the ultimate whipping boy for Congress. That's one reason we're never going to see it gotten rid of. Politicians on both sides use it. Anytime the economy goes south, they blame the Fed. It's just absurd. But why would you take a job like that where if you succeed, that politicians will take credit, but if you don't, they're going to blame you?
Yeah, but then you're an important guy. You're a consequential guy. You get to go on CNBC and make pronouncements. You have these meetings with mystics, and then you have a press conference afterward, and everybody's talking about you. I mean, you're somebody, John.
You're right. I suppose the attention is intoxicating, and because people still believe what's absurd, that the Fed is all powerful. It's not. Again, if it were, the U.S. economy wouldn't be worth talking about, and the Fed job wouldn't be a good job. If it were at all consequential, we'd really be in a tough spot.
All right, I want to ask you about something that you say is consequential. You wrote a book about it, as I just mentioned, The Money Confusion, about the crypto revolution. So on the show on Friday, in our show here, we had one of our market guys on, Jim Perry. He's a very sharp guy. And one of the things, we talked a little bit about crypto, and he said that stablecoin is a big deal. And the reason it's a big deal is because it's backed by paper, T-bills. And so this is, I guess you would say, the beginnings of institutionalizing crypto. Is that your view on it? Is stablecoin an important part of this story and this burgeoning sector, or not, and why?
Well, okay, there's two answers to that. First of all, yeah, it's a great thing in the sense that if you're an Afghan woman trying to hide your wealth, what a beautiful thing. You have a way to essentially lock your wealth up. They can't take it from your person. Mm-hmm. And so you can be from anywhere in the world and have access to what are essentially dollars. So that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Now, historically, that was true. The dollar circulates around the world as a consequence of this. People store their wealth in dollars everywhere. But this is a safer way to do it. So that's really great. But wait a second. I've heard for years from all the crypto crowd, well, yeah, these cryptocurrencies, see, they're a response to central banks and currency devaluation and all the terrible things, that governments are doing. Okay, well, I would disagree about this. Yeah, governments always devalue currencies. Well, so why is stablecoin so great? It's just a proxy for the dollar, which allegedly the crypto revolution was a response to. And so my response is, yeah, this is a logical next step, but this is the limits to this is the frontier this is all you're going to do. You're going to recreate the dollar. I thought the whole point was to improve on the dollar, which has me thinking that the ultimate destination for this is going to be someone's going to come out there. I think it'll be an Amazon, JP Morgan, a crypto that actually holds its value, unlike the dollar, and that people will say, I don't want to be paid in dollars anymore. You'll pay me in JP Morgan dollars, and JP Morgan dollars will gradually circulate. You'll walk into a store on Michigan Avenue and say, do you take JP Morgan dollars? Yes, we do.
Well, that's sort of what I was thinking after the fact, that as I was sort of reflecting on what he said. I mean, it sounds logical, but the end of that is, well, so stablecoin is all to drive up demand for treasuries. Well, then what is I mean, it's just sort of like it's third order. It's a third order dollar then.
Yeah, it's just you're not doing anything that you don't already have. The dollar is already globally, as we've discussed, just globally circulated. It's everywhere it's needed. If you want to buy a house in Argentina, you'll use dollars. If you want to buy goods in North Korea right now, you're going to use dollars. It's already there. It's just another way to store your wealth in what was allegedly not stable enough, that was allegedly so turbulent that we needed crypto in the first place. And so I don't get where they're going with this.
Well, so then, I mean, if like just to pick back up on your scenario, the idea of JP Morgan dollars that hold their value. Does your business take JP Morgan dollars, and then you'll be able to transact? So does that mean there is not a crypto at present that you think is going to essentially win the day, that Bitcoin is maybe a extended but nonetheless flash in the pan, and something else that has a different institutional composition is going to be where this really ends up?
Yeah, my guess is there's probably a crypto out there that's going to win the day. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, well,
and
sure.
If I did, but yeah, Bitcoin is not going to be it. But by the very definition of the Bitcoin proponents, they all say, it's just going up, 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 up. Well, how could that be a currency? Who would ever transact with something? There's going to be losers everywhere. You see, trade is about equal exchange, and so it's not going to be Bitcoin. Certainly, dollar proxies have their value, certainly around the world, not so much in the United States, but around the world. Okay, that's interesting. So stablecoin has a global importance, but no, something's got to replace this. And so what I argue in the book is that governments have always devalued. We know that. That's just a fact of life. Not central banks. Governments have always devalued. Businesses, conversely, have an incentive to not offend their customers. Businesses don't they are going out of their way to not rob you. And so it strikes me that an Amazon, a JP Morgan, a Wells Fargo, name your bank, is going to say, we can do this better. And oh, by the way, you will hold this money that will come in your paycheck every month, and you can rely on it. It's a forever thing. And that's going to really, I think, strikes me that that's got to be the future.
Well, but how does that work? Because, I mean, just from a practical point of view, you know how those big banks operate, which is they seek to use the government as a sword or a shield. So they'll invite regulation for the purposes of crowding out competition, almost assuredly. And so then it seems to me like we're left back with the same conversation we're having about stablecoins. So what's different?
I just think that they are going to say that we're going to expand, we're going to enhance what is already an interesting idea. Dare I say it? Will one of these entities use gold?
Yeah.
Why? It causes economists' heads to explode. But isn't it interesting that before 1971 there weren't currency markets? Well, why were there no currency markets? Because currencies had a fixed definition in terms of the dollar that had a fixed definition as 1/35th of an ounce of gold. Gold didn't just happen. It wasn't just sunspots. Oh, yeah, let's use gold. Gold was the market's choice after thousands of years of trial and error with all sorts of other currencies. What imbues money with stability? And gold is this constant that's always worked. And so what have we seen since we've untethered the dollar from gold? We've seen a surge in currency trade. And why have we seen that? Because that's been the market's way of saying we don't trust money that lacks a stable definition. And so now there's 10 trillion daily in currency trading. Well, what do markets do best? But they compete away margins. There's a margin out there that's been created by money lacking a definition. The world does not want it. Again, look at the currency market. So my strong sense is that eventually, call it Amazon, someone's going to come back with a currency that's defined in terms of something that's very stable, and it's going to be very attractive in the marketplace precisely due to its stability.
John Tamny is the editor of Real Clear Markets, realclearmarkets.com, the book, which we were discussing in pertinent part, The Money Confusion, How Illiteracy About Currencies and Inflation Sets the Stage for the Crypto Revolution. John, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
And John joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Your manufacturing production is only as good as your manufacturing team.
Monarch makes you better, plain and simple. They do an excellent job at recruiting the right people, qualified, experienced top talent that improve productivity.
Monarch Technical Services has been leading the Chicago staffing industry for manufacturing and engineering since 1987.
Their vetting process is bang on, and their payment terms show just how dedicated to helping they are. You have 6 months to pay the finder's fee, and if for any reason the candidate leaves, the fee ends. Simple.
Monarch's payment terms allow you to make sure employees fit in before fees are paid in full. It's a working partnership that works.
If you're growing your manufacturing team, trust me, call Monarch Technical Services.
Monarch meets every candidate in person to interview and test for specific skills and assesses experience by using blueprint, shop math, part measurement, and CNC program exams. Call 847-342-1221. That's 847-342-1221. Or visit monarchtechnical.com.
Your home or business has storm damage and you have an insurance claim.
Call Crosscom.
Crosscom Construction and Public Adjusters. Today, insurance companies are notorious for offering way too little money to repair damage to your home or commercial building due to wind, hail, tornado, floods, or fire. Crosscom works for you, not the insurance company. As licensed adjusters, Crosscom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout.
Call Crosscom.
630-871-5500. After they get you the fair insurance company result, Crosscom can start doing your repairs. Crosscom is a full construction and restoration company that will get your property back to its pre-loss condition, getting your life back to normal. Roof, siding, windows, doors, fire restoration, Crosscom does it all.
Call Crosscom.
Licensed in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin.
This is Dan Leitz with Crosscom. We share your conservative and Christian values. Let us handle everything. It all starts with a call.
630-871-5500. CrosscomPublicAdjusters.com.
AM 560. The Answer.
Dan Proft here. So first Colbert, then CBP, Corporation for Public Broadcasting. They're closing their doors after being thrown off the dole. And now Gayle King, Oprah's BFF. Gayle King has been the face of CBS Mornings for a dozen years, but the leftist-skewed coverage could put an end to her career as soon as next year. She may be on her way out, too. Signed an estimated $13 million extension with CBS until next spring. I mean, how do you make the economics work of these shows when you're paying a mouth-breathing newsreader to emote for $13 million a year? Good. I mean, wow. God, I wish I would have got in on this business in the glory days when people were wildly overpaid. I mean, whatever the numbers will bear, but I don't know how you pay Stephen Colbert $15 million a year to lose 40. That's tough to sustain those economics. A insider claiming that CBS Mornings lost its curveball, quote unquote, when Trump was elected, and that's in part because Gayle King and her staff couldn't hide their distaste, to put it gently, for the election results, and had a difficult time recovering. And so, boy, to lose Gayle King from the airwaves after Colbert and Tote Bag Central, it's a lot to take in. Somebody else I'd like to see lose any audience that he currently generates. I'm sure insular as it is. Jim Acosta, boy, he's fallen from the heights of being the Sam Donaldson impersonator, Trump term 1. This is really, this thing he did is really unseemly to me. Now, the family did agree to have him do this, but I still think it's just an error in judgment. I mean, and I don't really care that he's a leftist goof. I would say it if it was a conservative doing this as well. But he posted a video where he interviews an AI-generated version of Joaquin Oliver, who was one of the 17 kids killed in that 2018 mass shooting in Parkland, the school shooting. So he takes a picture of Joaquin Oliver, this high school student that was murdered in that mass shooting, and then the AI generates a response to questions that he poses to Joaquin Oliver. It's weird. And of course, this is the question, one of the main questions that he posed. This was, I think, in part the whole purpose of the interview, and maybe this is why the family agreed to it.
I would like to know what your solution would be for gun violence.
Great question. I believe in a mix of stronger gun control laws, mental health support, and community engagement. We need to create safe spaces for conversations and connections, making sure everyone feels seen and heard. It's about building a culture of kindness and understanding. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea, Joaquin.
I think that's grotesque. I mean, that's the seance with a digital version of a person who's deceased for the purpose of having them recite the tired, leftist vocabulary-laden response to a question about guns for the purposes of advancing gun bans in the wake of mass shootings and so forth. I don't know. Like I said, the family agreed to it, so I guess he has cover there. But I hope that doesn't begin a trend. I just think it's not for me to say, I guess, with respect to the Oliver family's son, but I just find it disrespectful and distasteful and sort of desecratory in a material way. Anyway, thank you for joining us in this edition of Chicago's Morning Answer. We'll be back with more to inform and titillate tomorrow. It is now 9 a.m. AM 560 WIND Chicago.
Texas is entitled to